Hey everyone, this is Zoe. We're back again. This time I have Muma from the Houston Outlaws joining me for a quick word. Muma, first off, of course, congratulations. You just impressed everyone watching. That was a stellar performance by the Houston Outlaws on that very stage. Now, let's talk a little bit about how you prepared for it. After your match against Shanghai yesterday, I heard that you guys got together very late at night, actually, to do some VOD reviewing. What did you focus on?
Yeah, we originally, after our match against Shanghai, we all went home to our apartments because we all live in the same complex. And we wanted to review like specifically what we should do against Dallas Fuel to like perfectly counter them. And like the comp we ran like a lot of dive, which is something pretty unorthodox for like the way the Houston Outlaws have been playing in the past. Like we usually have Jake on Junkrat, but we know that he's a good enough Genji to be able to run that dive, and we know that it counters what they run. So.
Well, it seemingly worked out for you guys. That was a stellar performance, really. Now, you had 2 victories in a row, convincing victories at that. How can you keep this momentum going into the week number 3?
I mean, we just need to keep playing our own game. The first 2 matches, they were hard losses, but we learned how to like treat our substitutions more accurately and like how to actually get the most out of our large roster. So as long as we just keep playing our game with our core roster and subbing when it's necessary instead of just doing it all the time, I think we'll be able to carry this momentum to playoffs.
Well, I'm sure your fans can't wait to see. Now, anything else? Any last words from you?
I mean, thanks to all our fans. Couldn't do without you. And in the wise words of a good friend of mine, rolled and smoked my doggies.
Thank you so much, Muma. Houston Outlaws take away the victory, and we're going to break that game down on our analyst desk. Can't even talk anymore.
Thank you so much, Zoe. Wow, give it up for Muma one more time. He was our player of the match yesterday. He crushes again for Houston as they get a big 4-0 victory over the Dallas Fuel. Arguably the most shocking result we have seen so far in the regular season. Welcome back. I'm Chris Puckett, breaking down the post-game action alongside Crumbs and Reinforce. And we got to start here with just a composition talk at halftime. We talked about, will we see a switch up in the rosters? Will we see some new heroes? Johnny coming into this control, we saw Linkser was back in the lineup alongside Jake for the Houston Outlaws. Were you surprised to see that Dallas Fuel was using the same lineup that they did in the first and second game?
I was pretty surprised, yes. When we talk about Envious in the past or Dallas Fuel, we want Taimu to be the X-Factor on the Widowmaker, for example. But they keep playing this very slow composition with the Orisa and the Junkrat and the Roadhog. And when they're not getting these picks, they're not really winning any fights. And because Houston Outlaws are playing these high mobile heroes, the Tracer and the Genji, they get to set up the fights how they want to, and they dictate how the fights go.
We saw so many incredible Genji plays, and I have to ask, you see this Genji going off mid-game, how do you counter it? What do you switch out?
Well, your tanks actually are typically more geared towards dealing with the Genji. The Divas and the Winstons are pretty much your easiest way to deal with these heroes, but unfortunately, I think that the Fuel just was unable to perform when it came to the tanks, as the issue came down to dive themselves in the previous map in Horizon, where the synergy just wasn't there. And I think the synergy just really was not there for them to be able to deal with Genji's Jake, which was also surprising for them. I don't think they actually expected them to bust it out.
Yeah, well, we've seen in the past that teams like, for example, New York, who we're about to see coming up next, they utilize the Winston a lot more in their anti-dive compositions. So I'm a bit surprised to see Dallas Fuel still opt for the Orisa in these kind of Junkrat compositions. You might as well put Coco on that Winston. He is more of a passive player, and he is good enough on the Winston. So maybe skip the Orisa next time.
Skip the Orisa, bring out Winston, deal with the Genji. That's what Dallas Fuel didn't do. And on the other side of things, we watched the Houston Outlaws. It's been a story of the DPS. They're constantly putting up highlights for us, but you were really keened in on Jake for our third map.
Yeah, Jake was actually able to play the Genji, and I thought that now we get to really see him enter the role of a projectile specialist. He's got the Junkrat, he's got the Genji, the Pharah as well, and he's just been making chop suey out of the entire Dallas Fuel lineup. And we actually get a nice little bonus here where he's going to give us an interpretive dance of what happened to the Dallas Fuel this game.
Oh no!
Oh, run over. Dallas Fuel's 0-4. They got ran over.
They haven't even played their fourth game.
0-3. 0-3. We'll get to that a little bit later. Let's move it on now to our fourth game as we get into Eichenwald. And here we saw the match is already technically finished. Houston has won 3 of the 4 games. So they swap out Taimu, and immediately we saw him opening things up and making an impact.
I mean, he has a huge first couple of shots, but the question is, why would you not do this earlier when it no longer matters? Right, so you sub him in, bam, immediately deals with the Pharah, and now he goes and is actually going to be able to deal with the Winston right away, and the point is pretty much capped at that point. We were just like, why would you not have it
exactly
do that before?
And it's exactly what you need, right? You need time to hit those flanks, exactly. He just walks through a Winston bubble for the McCree right click. Who does that on McCree? You need that kind of X factor, and I'm really happy to see Taimu get maybe brought into the starting squad for next week, hopefully, because Dallas needs to play this more multi-directional kind of playstyle.
So, Johnny, we watched a pretty strong start here for the Dallas Fuel. Things were looking up for them. They get an early first take of point A. Now they're on the attack to point B, and this is a much more wide open portion of the level. Dallas just seemed to stall out on the bridge, or even before they got to the bridge. What happened?
Yes, and it was Jake again on the Junkrat, of course. He was standing on top of the castle on point B, just spamming wildly and shutting down all of Dallas Fuel's routes here. But he ends up dying in this case. But they didn't do it throughout all of this point. So I'd like them to see maybe hit Jacob a bit more, because that fight was really successful for them. But throughout, they were a little bit lost. Coco and Mickey not focusing down the same targets. So a bit uncoordinated still.
Well, I want to actually point out the coordination necessary to take down Jake's Junkrat. If you remember in the World Cup when Korea was facing off against USA, it took 3 people and a Diva Bomb to actually take him down from these high ground. You need so much coordination, so much commitment to actually remove him from these high ground positions where you can do so much that a team like Dallas, struggling to dive, was just never going to find the openings to deal with his pick.
Dallas showed us what they could do. They got stalled out, but I don't feel like we saw Dallas at their best yet. They're going to go back, try and retool this roster, and figure out how to get a big win, because their 4th match of the season is against the London Spitfire, and we know how dangerous that squad has been. Coming up next, we're going to see the New York XL, the unbeaten New York XL, face off against the Los Angeles Valiant. But before we get to that, we have to crown our player of the match, sponsored by Omen by HP. And of course, we had to go with a man not named Linkster. It's Jake on our screen this time around, Grumps.
Yeah, I mean, if you play Junkrat this well, you pretty much get away with playing it all the time, and that's what he does. He found so many good opportunities to deal with Dallas's misposition that we just have to give it to him for being able to actually play the Genji as well. So now he's shown some diversity.
I wanted to give some love to Raucus as well. Hog, we saw some Soldier out of him, but really it was the Jake stroke.
It was the Jake story, of course. And last week, I think that too many Jake disappointed. He was just playing the Junkrat pretty well, got a lot of praise from the Koreans. We don't know how serious they were, but it looked good on the Junkrat. We know he has a good Pharah, but overall, it's a player who's really struggling with his hero pool. So finally seeing the Genji, that means maybe he can build himself more of a starting position rather than being a niche player in that regard.
I like that call. That is our player of the match, sponsored by Omen by HP. Congrats to Jake, getting the job done. Look out for his concussion mines in the future. Well, speaking of Jake, we all got a chance to meet him for the first time back at the World Cup. But now that he's living in Los Angeles and a member of the Overwatch League, we got a chance to live a full day in the life of Jake.
My name is Jacob Lyon. My gamer tag is Jake. I play DPS for the Houston Outlaws.
Later today, we'll be going down to the venue, playing some scrims, but right now we're just getting in the mood. This is the apartment complex where they have all of the Outlaws housed. Hard to complain out here. It is the first day of games for the Overwatch League in general, but we have no games today for the Houston Outlaws. Our first game is actually tomorrow against the Philadelphia Fusion. So for us, today is a training day, it's a practice day. We've been here for, coming up on 2 months now, and we're really getting into the rhythm of going to the studio and playing every day.
I was fully on course to finish college and go get a job, but I knew that what I really wanted to do, that my passion was always esports. So I always had that sort of secret hope all through school that I would make it in a game, be good enough to compete professionally. At the start of the inaugural season, there's a lot of sense of history in the making. You know, there's a ton of money behind this league. There's a ton of personnel investment, time investment, and you know, just personal fan commitment to the league and its success. You know, it feels like all eyes on us. What's up, G? And this is our practice room. Come on in, guys. Hello, welcome.
They have no res, no res. Let's suck the event.
Back up. I'm Valking.
I pulled Widow. I got punched.
Can you get out, Muma, or do we need to fight forward?
I'm kind of come up May here. Let's just go for max OT. Muma's primaling. Muma, call your death. Linkster, don't go until Muma's dead. Baby Diva, Baby Diva. Nice, guys. Good hold. It's kind of funny here because you always, you know, you pass each other in the halls. You're kind of like coworkers in a way, even though you're on different teams. All right, we're backstage here at the Overwatch League studios in the Blizzard Arena, Los Angeles. You might start to recognize it a little more as we go down this way. This stage has a lot of emotion attached to it. You know, this is where we play. This is, you know, where it all comes together. In about 24 hours, we'll be back here right on this spot, walking out. Play our match against the Philadelphia Fusion. We're ready, we're excited, we're hungry. Today is game day. We got our first match of the season against the Philadelphia Fusion. I chose the name Jake in game because I feel like there's something meaningful about using your real name in a place that's so, you know, anonymous normally. Ooh. The DPS role is sort of the the opposite of the unsung hero, right? Like you get all the plays, you get all the highlights, but that's only because you get all the support from your team to make those things possible.
Hi, friend.
How's it going?
It's going. How are you?
Oh, just chilling, excited. Feels good.
Ready to go out there and kill it?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Hair and makeup, great people working there. They're always awesome and supportive. It's just nice, you know, in a high-stress environment just before a match. It's not about practicing or grinding anymore. It's just about being ready to put out what you already practiced. It's the work you put in to get here.
All right, guys. Good job. Good luck. Have fun. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for the Houston Outlaws.
Running rampant. It's going to be Jake going on a flank here. He's going to get the enemy Mercy. Expect the balls there. It's going to be Jake to fall. That's huge! And the Outlaws are running out of steam. Finally, the Fusion have found the answer. There it is, the Fusion get it done. What a match.
It was a tough 3-2 loss, although I really feel like we pushed Philly Fusion to their limit. It definitely sucks to have a loss in the first game of the season on opening day. Our own most harsh critic is ourselves. The press are never going to be as angry at us as we are at ourselves for failing. We're definitely excited to represent Houston. Unfortunately, we couldn't bring it home today for the fans, but we're really looking to have a strong season to represent Houston. I don't think a loss is really a setback for us. I mean, we know that we have 39 more games in the regular season. We have a lot of opportunity to prove ourselves. We're ready for the long season.
How many people out there want to live the life of Jake? Seemed pretty awesome. Great stuff there from the star DPS player from the Houston Outlaws. After that loss to the Fusion, they dropped their second match, but as you just witnessed this week, they're now tied up at 2-2, right in the middle of the pack. Our next match, though, is going to be a big one. Let's make some noise, Blizzard Arena, because when we come back, we're going to see the unbeaten NYXL going up against the Los Angeles Valiant. Give it up for the home team. We'll see you in a minute. The Overwatch League is brought to you by Omen by HP and by Intel.
All right, boys. Today we're going to be going over some. Get off your phone. Today we're going to be going over the same map pool from pre-season, and then we'll be going into scrims against Spitfires. So it should be nice and easy. Right, let's get rolling, guys. Spin around.
Some people drove past this space 6 months ago and saw an abandoned garage. Noah drove past this place and saw the future.
The second I saw this space, I saw it in its finished state, and I knew that it would be a really great home for our organization.
This is the main attraction of the Valiant facility. This is where we scrim, where we practice, where we do strats. You guys are just playing Overwatch, some are playing comp, some are just talking about the game, some guys relaxing, chilling out. This is basically where the magic happens.
We have one of the youngest rosters in Overwatch League, and most of our players are kind of discovering now what it means to be a professional player.
If you stretch, over time it will feel better.
Oh, man, you hurt.
1 is good, 10 is really bad. I think it's broken, I'm going to die.
Maybe 7.
Really? You have to stop playing for a couple of days.
These guys play a ton of Overwatch every day. They're going to be playing a ton of official matches every season. They need to understand how to balance the demands of playing professional Overwatch with the demands of being an adult and maintaining a real life outside of their job. If they don't, then burnout and early retirement is a very real risk.
Oh, shit.
Okay, give me our money. One of the benefits about having this facility is you have a clear separation between working and living space. And another one is not just the players are together in here, but you also have all the staff in one location, which is awesome.
My favorite part about being in a compound like this would have to be work-life balance. Coming to an actual office space makes everything feel more official. I think it also gives us a better environment to just, you know, kind of be ourselves and have fun.
Come on!
It's kind of a dream come true.
How? How do I beat that?
We get to be here amongst each other all day. We get to hang out. We get to do other things. We get to eat lunch together. We're building synergy and we're building communication with each other, and it's just helping us all around. I feel if we utilize the talent properly, we can definitely come out on top. There's a lot of good character within the team, a lot of great personalities. People are getting along well. We're just working on like the general cohesion of everybody.
It's super exciting for the players that they're going from one phase of life and all of a sudden part of this incredibly dynamic, game-changing time in sports and entertainment.
They have this unmatched hunger and desire to be the best at this game that I think you only really find in these younger rosters.
Obviously time will tell, but we're practicing hard and we do expect to win.
And the Valiant are back on the move again. You wanted a blockbuster match? Sabiobi is also here. Now Pine's starting to feel it.
It's gonna be 2 kills, make it 3 for Envy.
Silk Thread now, keeping the train rolling straight on. Sabiobi coming out on top in a lot of these engagements. It's almost impossible to see how he managed to do it. A decisive opening to this series. And it'll be LA on the attack.
Welcome back to the Overwatch League. We are live in Los Angeles. We are watching some incredible games here on the 17th day, or 17th match of action here. This is day 2 of week 2, and I'm your host, Chris Puckett. I'm joined at the desk once again. We got Crumbs reinforced, and our insider Zoe joins us once again. Zoe, what do you think of the first match?
Oh,
Houston
I'm so
coming out
excited.
with the 4-0.
Yeah, you know what? I know that Fuel was the favorite going into this one, and that just makes me all the more happy that the win from the Outlaws was that convincing. I did think they're going to take it, but I didn't think it's going to be such a sweep.
You saw it coming. I did not.
Yeah,
I'll be honest.
Let's just say I did see it coming.
I did it. That first match, I thought it was going to be the Dallas Fuel, but from here on out, this is a huge toss-up. Let's look at the remaining schedule on the day. We're getting into a battle for the top hierarchy. Is it going to be the New York Excel or the LA Valiant joining Seoul at a perfect 3-0? A little bit later, though, we are going to a big matchup, which is going to shake things up in the middle of the pack. Who is going to take the lead between the Philly Fusion and the LA Gladiators? Such an action-packed day here on Thursday, and it's time to get our second match fired up. Are you guys ready? I thought so. You fell asleep on me for a minute, but now you're going to make some noise for the New York XL. Sabiolbi leading the charge, and I asked him, he was right next to me on the side of the stage, I said, how you feeling? He said, ready. Just one word, New York coming in prepared. They've defeated Boston, they've beaten Houston, and now they have a chance to go up 3-0.
Yeah, and I did talk to them, asked what their biggest strength was during that first week of play, and many people would say Pine. However, they say it was generally their tank and their support plays. They were the ones who really enabled the DPS to be able to go off. They were the reason why Pine, why Libero, and Sabiolbi actually went off like that.
Yes, and when you enable someone like Sabiolbi, you have a world-star DPS. In my opinion, one of the best tracers in the world, and he can flex to the McCree and the Widowmaker, of course. So I think that Sabiolbi is going to be the difference maker in this lineup.
I'm all about the base players here, the guys that go unnoticed. Jonek on your screen, this is the one that popped off on the DPS Zenyatta, redefining the role. However, he gets to shine on the damage front a little bit more when Pine is not in the lineup. When he's with Sabiolbi and Libero, he goes off. So I expect him to do a lot of work today.
You love your Zenyatta.
I do. That's
You're
my
doing
support.
Junior.
I'm such a tryhard. I have to play it.
I love it, and hopefully Meko got some of those drops in his eyes. New York is going to need to see him. Need him to be seeing clear. Let's introduce the full lineup here as we take a look at the starters. Sabiolbi and Libero are going to be playing the DPS roles, your tanks. It's going to be Meko and Mono, and of course, you mentioned it, Arc on the support alongside Jonak, who could basically be qualified as another DPS player. That's the New York XL. They come into this one 2-0, but so do their opponents. Let's give it up for the LA Valiant. The hometown squad was one of the biggest surprises in week 1 of the regular season. They beat San Francisco in the very first match, but then they went on to pull off an even bigger accomplishment. They took down the Dallas Fuel 3-0 in a massive victory.
And right now they are poised to have their biggest accomplishment yet. This is probably the most likely opportunity for a Western team to take down these all-Korean rosters, and it's going to be off the back of the tank play enabling their DPS.
Yeah, out of nowhere, really. We saw the tank in Contender Season 1, Fate and Envy, not necessarily rated that highly at all. Pretty mid-table tanks, but now going into the Overwatch League, Fate and Envy, in my opinion, has been probably a top 3 tank duo in Overwatch League thus far.
Yeah, and I gotta say, I'm very surprised to see Agilities here in the starting lineup, as Silk Thread was the one standout player, really. Oh, what's going on there?
You got your hand warmers on your forehead, you know.
Well, anyway, yeah, Agility's coming in for Silk Thread. Silk Thread was one of the big reasons why they did win. He was that standout player, so that now raises a lot of questions from my side onto what they're gonna see or what they're gonna do on Junkertown.
It's kind of crazy, Johnny. You mentioned the tanks, Fate and Envy. You were with me working Contenders, and all we did was call out their poor performance back in Contenders. Now they are one of the strongest pieces of this lineup. Look out for the LA Valiant today. Let's jump into this one, because we know this is a battle to see which team will join Seoul at the very top at 3-0. So let's go to you, Crumbs. You mentioned Jonak is going to be a key player here from the New York XL. Who are you looking out for on the Valiant side of things?
He's got a great counterpart here. When it comes to the Zenyatta duels, you've got Unko, who is also a stellar Zen. They've both been able to hit great DPS, get lots of snipes, but their woes have been the same. They both get a lot of mistimed Zenyatta ultimates that have been costing a couple of fights, maybe overlaps with the Mercy. So the team that can shore up the Transcendence usage, I think, will come out on top here.
All right, so what matchup are you looking forward to in particular?
Oh, can't come as a surprise that I'm gonna go for the Tracer showdown here. It's gonna be Soon and Sabiolbi. Those are the two players I want to see going off. Who of these two players will be winning those Tracer battles? Because in the past, I have to say that Tracer versus Tracer, Sabiolbi will be your man.
Johnny, you agree with that call? You're just gonna...
Oh yeah, I agree with that. I called out Sabiolbi. A lot of people hype Soon up. I think the arena is cheering for Soon, but I'm going with my man Sabiolbi. In my opinion, he's the best Tracer in the world. And we saw in the World Cup,
wow,
he smashed Sinatra on the Tracer, so he's going to do the same today.
Best Tracer in the world. Everyone quote this, put it on Reddit. That's Reinforced 2018. Impressive call there, Johnny. We're looking forward to this Tracer battle, but let's look at the big picture here. The map pool could be something in favor of the Valiant.
Yes, exactly. We've seen from the Korean teams, they don't necessarily favor Junkertown so far. They've been struggling a bit. So on Junkertown, once again here, LA Valiant has a good chance. We've seen Horizon, where LA Valiant last week managed to win convincingly versus Dallas Fuel. They might take Horizon this time as well. And New York XL, they played 2 maps so far. Both time, Pine has come out on Ilios and just popped off. But this time, we're playing Oasis. So is Pine going to be fielded this match? I don't know. But all I know is that LA Valiant has the better Pharah.
Anyone out there want to see Pine today? Kid's pretty nasty. He's not in the starting lineup. We'll see. When does New York choose to put in their final boss? This one is going to be a barn burner. Let's start with you, Crumbs, going down the line. Official predictions. Who moves on to 3-0?
Official prediction, I think the LA Valiant is going to set things on fire today. I think that they have a better overall strategy compared to the New York XL that has been relying too much on individual prowess to get them this far. I think the Valiant is going to show up and big today.
Hometown squad, going to you, Reinforce.
I'm going with the New York XL for this one. I'm sorry, LA. I'm sorry. Libra on the Junkrat, Samuel the McCree, they're going to shut down the dives of Valiant.
And what about you, Zoe? You're the tiebreaker. Are you going hometown or New York?
I don't want the audience to boo me out like that. like that. Okay, let's take it that way. My heart wants Valiant to win, honestly. However, I do think NYXL does have the edge.
Yes.
Sorry.
2 New Yorks and an LA. That's it from the desk. Let's get this match started. Let's send it backstage. We got Uber with Mr. X.
Thank you very much, Pocket. G'day, Blizzard Arena. Nobody sleeps on the City That Never Sleeps map, but the City of Angels are putting forward their finest squad so far, of course. 2-0 for the Valiant coming into this one. But tell me, you grew up in Long Island, right?
Yeah.
Now you live in
Which
Los
is in
Angeles.
New York.
Yeah, in New York. Where are you feeling on this one? Like, you know, we can talk about your heart or your head.
Look, I think the Los Angeles Valiant had a tremendous week last week. You know, putting up the performances they did. You know, 2-0, undefeated in terms of maps. They do get the 1 draw. You see the map list here in this series, but I feel like everyone's kind of, you know, undervaluing New York a little bit. I feel like they have such a strong lineup coming in. I feel like New York's going to take this series.
Well, to be honest, I'm glad to call Los Angeles my home. Plus, they're green and gold like the Aussies. Let's make some noise, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to jump into Junkertown to kick things off. The importance of this match cannot be overstated. Now that we've seen the Dallas Fuel stumble yet again, perhaps the victory of the Valiant against that squad earlier on doesn't mean as much. So this is the true litmus test, the benchmark for possibly one of the finest Western teams or at least predominantly so, we have in this competition, of course. Los Angeles, a lot on the line here. They've already showed that they can, you know, take down San Francisco. Preseason, they seem to be the better LA team. Now it's time to go coast to coast, just like Space Ghost.
I feel like you learn a lot about both of these rosters coming into this series, because I think a lot of people would put, you know, Seoul Dynasty at the top, you know, London Spitfire right there at number 2, and then I think everyone would kind of say, at least early in the season, you know, these two teams are kind of that battle for 3-4. We kind of get a decider here, so to speak. And I think the reason you see agilities that Zoe was talking about on the desk is that potentially they would have agilities running the Roadhog, right? We've seen agilities run the Roadhog. Potentially you see that, you know, when, well, it's going to be the Valiant here on defense. Agilities does have Junkrat out now, but he's not exactly up with the rest of his team. Envy looks like he'll be playing Roadhog, so they'll go Orisa and Roadhog in terms of tanks. You have Soon playing Widow, and then Agilities will take up Junkrat responsibilities here.
So we're seeing a fair bit of this, right? It's the fairly well-known combo, of course. You play the Orisa with the Holt into a Roadhog hook. Obviously just a slight issue on the stage there, guys. We'll keep you updated with that one as we go through. But obviously the Orisa Holt combo is very popular. We actually have seen, we saw obviously the Dallas Fuel try and use that one. You get a guaranteed hook. You get a guaranteed pick. We normally see the Junkrat in a composition as well. It's good to deter divers as well, of course, as the Roadhog is. But we actually saw a little bit different from Dallas. We saw a Tracy here, but this seems to be like the generally agreed lineup for this kind of comp.
Yeah, I think you go with the Widowmaker in this type of situation, right? You can play a little bit further back. You don't have to play up by that Orisa shield, right? And even with Tracer, you know, when you have Orisa and Roadhog, it's really just the Tracer kind of going into that backline, going up against that Zen Mercy combination, which if your Mercy's healing up the Zen, it's very difficult. And you kind of have Zen put a Harmony Orb on Mercy, right? It's very difficult to get either of those targets down. I like the Junkrat in this combo as well because you get the Halt and the Hook, and then you can just blow those players up with a ton of front damage coming out of Junkrat. And it deters the dive, like you're saying, right? Because if they go past the Orisa barrier, which is what you would want to do against an Orisa, because she doesn't have a ton of mobility, you can kind of protect her with a lot of damage that Junkrat puts down.
So let's talk about Jonak a little bit, because there was a lot of hype about this player from the previous week, and now we have a battle of flex support players. It's actually going to be Unko, of course, on the Zenyatta going up against likely Jonak in that role. Let's talk about his performance, because it dwarfed some of the DPS performances of other DPS players here. What allows a Zen player to be able to do this in that kind of situation? How can he get these big numbers?
Well, I think it's something kind of like how you see Pine when he comes in on control. He just has so much space. Like every time we see Pine or Jonak, we go onto their screen and the first person POV, there's not a Tracer harassing them. There's not like a Winston jumping in their face. They just have a ton of space to be able to just, in Jonak's case, just land down discords, finish off some targets. And it's very difficult because you're so worried about, Sabiel B jumping in there with Mono, that Tracer Winston combination, that you really don't put a ton of priority to get to Jonak in that back line. I think that's where you see him do a lot of his damage.
So you're telling me that instances like Pine going massive and then Jonak, of course, doing the same thing on the same team, no less, is vastly because of the tank play here on New York Excelsior?
Yeah, I think it's because Mono and Meko, and then when Janus comes in on control, playing the main tank role, they just create so much space for the rest of their members. And then Saviel B, he's one of the best tracers, obviously, in the world. But the thing that makes him potentially the absolute best tracer, I think, in my opinion, is his ability to just take these one-on-one duels with other tracers and just kind of force them back. So when he gets in those situations, he always hunts down the other team's tracer, puts a few shots at him, gets them weak, forces the recall out. That Tracer can't be aggressive at that point, has to go all the way back to the team.
Little things are the ones we want to look out for. The Valiant prepared, though? That is the big question. New York now out of the gate, and it is going to be Jonak on the Bastion here. So not going to see Zenyatta as we had seen prior. They're happy to play the Pirate Ship composition. They do have the Roadhog in the mix. The Orisa, of course, is also there, and much the same way that you get good picks off those halts, Bastion can really just nail people getting out of position with that one as well. We got an early res on Meko.
If the double sniper setup here for NYXL, it's going to be soon versus Sabiel B here in a little Widow one-on-one on the outside. They just have to get Jonak set back up on that payload with the Orisa barrier.
Oh, okay.
See if he can do that. It'll be Meko actually taking out agilities. That's a huge pick because you lose a ton of that damage that Junkrat puts down. Soon gets the better of Sabiel B. But as that's happening, all the damage from NYXL just coming up the front. So although Soon gets the better in the Widow battle, everybody else in the front side of the fight's dropping for the Valiant.
Yeah, sorry guys, you're gonna have to curb your enthusiasm there. We obviously spent time watching what may have been a pivotal duel, but the tanks going head to head. Straight down the middle, and that choke point was probably the more important part of that engagement. So, the NYXL get to the first checkpoint. Not overly notable, not overly surprising. Only 2 teams have failed to actually make this one so far.
Well, when agility falls for the Valiant, and Soon is over on that outside, fighting Sabiel B, don't have a lot of damage coming through the front, so it's very hard to break that Orisa shield. And then also, Jonak has an easy target in Envy as Roadhog, who now needs to play a little bit further out, a little bit more aggressive, trying to get him off the cart.
Single support, so you notice that players like Mono and Meko are a little bit low on HP. Gonna have to wait, and that's a huge Riptire! Happy birthday, New York. And that is definitely going to stop them. A good time to catch them as well, Matt. They're on the causeway. There's not really much opportunity to spread.
And I wonder when we see NYXL switch off of the Bastion, because the payload's around that corner, it's going to be very difficult for Jonak to get set right back up on the cart. So you can see where the cart is right now. See what New York decides to do with the Bastion. It looks like they're going up for a high ground setup here.
From behind, perhaps. Unko will be able to hear this. Surely the Bastion makes a lot of noise when he steps, and they don't have the time to really crash walk this.
You go. Dragon Strike. Make it all the way around.
This could be nasty. They might pinch it here as well with the Dragon Strike. Meko doesn't hit the hook, but he finds the damage anyway. The scrap gun is there. Dragon comes screeching on through. Doesn't claim any kills, but the Valiant out Jonak from downtown. Kareem, there's not a damn thing he could do about it. And that was nasty. The Valkyrie was there as well. It just did not matter.
That is filthy there from Jonak, just shooting Kareem out of the sky when the Valkyrie comes through. I'm surprised the Valiant didn't hear the players from NYXL coming through that staircase. They seemed a little bit shocked once they got up there around the corner. The Dragon Strike from Libero forces them out a little bit of position.
Also makes sound. It makes it harder for them to hear what's behind it.
Is also true. There's a ton of sound there with the Dragon Strike animation. Kind of use that to hide some of the footsteps.
Oh, agilities. Yeah, wasn't ready for that one. Sabiel B now just wrapping around a little bit more. It's a res there, and it can be done. It's a safe position for Kareem to bring agilities back, but very, very quickly, the young player needs to respond. Sabiel B down! And he's there to receive soon. No idea what happened, but a bullet between his ears. Now Libero as well. This is getting nasty now. New York are pushing forward. The payload has been left unattended for the time being, though, so there's a chance here for the LA Valiant to set up and hold this a bit more.
Well, New York lost both of their tanks, so there's really nothing they can do at that moment in time. Then they lose Sabiel B on the Widowmaker, so they're forced to back out a little bit. Jonak still on the Bastion. Looks like potentially going back to the spawn. Potential switch here maybe happening for NYXL because you see Sabiel B go off of Widowmaker. He'll go over to Tracer. Libero will go over to Junkrat. Yep, here are the big changes coming in from NYXL. The agility is using a Riptire here for the Valiant.
This is a time purchase more than anything else. It's unlikely the agilities will get towards the New York Excelsior by the time this time's out. But again, it's time being bought. And if Los Angeles now can try and exacerbate their ultimate advantage, you'll notice they've got, importantly, the Transcendence available, but the 3 ultimates in general here for disengage, or at least to buy themselves some more time. That's the most crucial part on a map where players quite easily finish attacks.
Yeah, and if you're New York Excelsior coming into the fight, you'd love to get both
that could have
support
been
all
so
down. Good fight here for the Valiant, though. Mono goes up top. They tried to drop the Supercharger and push on through. Fate uses the Supercharger as well. Envy uses a whole hog. It'll be the Valiant holding on the defensive end. I was saying it would be great if NYXL could get in, force out 1 or 2 of those support ults, because now you would have came back into the fight with your own Valkyrie. You know, the fight extends at that point. You think maybe SaveLB gets closer to a pulse bomb, but the fight just really dominated there by the Valiant.
I mean, that fight there as well, bear in mind, Envy only had a couple seconds channel time on that whole hog, but because the Supercharger from Fate was put down, he was able to break the shield that was put up by the enemy Orisa, and that allowed the rest of the Valiant to just blow them up. New York's play depended entirely on that shield being intact.
And now New York makes more changes. They're going to go with a pretty heavy dive comp here. You'll have Mono go over to Winston, Meko will play Diva, and Libero will play the Genji in this setup. So see Agility just trying to get some damage here on the Junkrat behind enemy lines. The Valiant have to be very careful. They have to protect these supports in this type of comp.
Agilities has self-heal and the ability to keep himself safe, at least for the most part. Of course, a bit of mobility with the use of Concussive Mine, and getting a bit of damage now as well. He wants to get that next Riptide to shut this fight down, but he might not have enough time. Envy now sees the tanks try to go for Agilities, but there's nothing he can do about it. He can't access the high ground, so it's Unco to jump in. He's going to provide the Transcendence. Arc now with the Resurrect on Saviobi, but Fate is also the same. He gets brought back into the fight. That's the Riptide they were looking for, though. A D-suit and a kill on Libero is big. It draws out another Resurrect, but Jonak's already found himself too. Both teams' Mercies are going ham, but this guy's going hog. Envy comes out, manages to force Mono away. Now he can help out the rest of his team. But he was a little bit too late. Meko was still able to pick off Karib, but it looks like it's still going to be enough for the LA Valiant to hold on, and this is big.
Yeah, it's only 35 seconds left on the clock here for NYXL to push the payload to point B. Now, they did get both support ults out from the Valiant, and Arc actually uses Valkyrie to go on in. They push on through, but Jonak uses the Transcendence towards the later half of that fight. It'd be great to have the Transcendence now, which would have been the only support ult online.
You have a fight where neither team has ultimates. This is where that first pick is so important, and Soon is on the perfect hero for it. He's up on that Widowmaker. There's no static shield presence available for the Excelsior right now. They can't just put a shield down and walk around it, so they got to jump on Soon, but he's already out. Karib's already fallen, though. That's the opening they were looking for. Libero, cheeky reflect, and Soon's going to have to wait a little bit before he gets another crack at the Genji, but he's going to be pressured down, and this is stunning. Beautiful from New York. Perfect, a fight where they don't have ultimates. It's so clean. They get the first pick. The dive was perfectly orchestrated.
Yeah, they're able to get Karib at the beginning of the fight. You see Agility still here, though, for the Los Angeles Valiant. Same with Envy. And at the top of the screen, there was actually SaveLB putting a ton of pressure on Agilities and Unco. And you don't have the damage of that Junkrat. He's trying to protect his Zenyatta. Then the rest of the members for NYXL, they jump on to Karib. They're able to get him out of the fight. And by the time they actually deal with SaveLB, everybody for the Valiant's dead on the point.
That was really, really clean. And look at that. New York go from 0 ultimates to 6. And they win the most crucial fight, arguably, of this map. However, they're short on time still. This Riptide could be devastating as it comes across. Agilities wants to connect this, and from Libero's perspective, we don't quite know where it is right now. Libero sitting on back, and the Riptide doesn't really get too much there, so it does buy time. Again, that's the name of the game right now for the Valiant. Libero's looking for a Dragon Blade here. It's going to be a self-destruct drop in. Meko attempting it now. Again, back and forth. Meko's brought back up after Agility's found him.
They do use the Primal Rage here. Does New York. They use a Pulse Bomb here as well. It'll be Unco. Uses his Transcendence. They're going to get aggressive. A Transcendence comes out from NYXL as well. Here comes the Dragon Blade from Libero. Slices through one. Just trying to put pressure on Agilities here. Has to be careful because of the Junkrat. Jonak finishes him off. The NYXL picking up a team kill here. Coming into the next fight, though, Karib will have that Valkyrie, so you have a ton of healing coming out in the double res.
That's why it's so significant that the Valiant forced out both of the support ults from the Excelsior by getting aggressive with their Transcendence. They said, we're going to come in, we're going to make it look like we're going to try and fight and win now. Soon gets taken out early on. No, that was Jonak to find him. That might be a really nasty start here in the fight for Los Angeles Valiant. Agility's coming forward. No, not many ultimates available for them either. There's a Primal Rage. Karib down early again. This can't keep happening for the Valiant. Jonak, though, at least is responded to. Savio with a Pulse Bomb, and he's looking for more targets, but Unco's down. Both supports are now missing for the Valiant. The healing cut severely short. Arc has been responded to, so both teams responding in kind. Savio gets a little bit too big for his boots. The shots on the pulse pistols are reflected, but Fate, an easy target up there for Meko. And that's a close round.
That kill onto Kariv, though, coming out of the spawn, that is the one that pretty much wins it there, completes the map for NYXL. They kind of traded supports. Jonak does fall at the hands of Fate. They dive in, though, on the other side. They get Kariv. They end up completing the map. No time in the time bank. The Los Angeles Valiant put up a very good fight, especially at that point B defense.
And this definitely raises the stakes for New York now, because it's not really common. We just saw it in the previous series, but again, not common that you can prevent an attacking team from finishing the round. Okay, we saw it even there. The map can be very hard to get back in control of once you lose it. So when New York kind of faltered a little bit on that second stage in the winding streets, and they were trying to look for an answer, the fact that they managed to break the deadlock, but even breaking the deadlock without having any ultimates, going for like a complete clean fight there and just using a perfect dive, that's incredibly impressive. Definitely something I want to look at later in detail and just see how they put it together, because it was very, very impactful.
And it looked like NYXL was actually going to take point B rather quickly. You remember, they come up that back staircase with the Bastion, they're able to win that fight, and then the Valiant, they just jump right onto the payload after that. They're able to win the next engagement, then hold for another maybe 2 minutes or so. So it's a very good defense from the Valiant. Now it'll be NYXL's turn on the defensive end. Libero will play Junkrat, Sabiel B will play Widowmaker. They'll have the Orisa Roadhog combination in terms of tanks. Also have Jonak playing Zen, and Arc will play Mercy here.
Again, this is generally the accepted team composition for defense on this map. So the Junkrat there giving himself a little bit of an ability to get enemy, or at least to get away from enemies, right? To put, a little bit of distance between him and his foes. And then you got Sabiobi as well. So New York want to sit back, get picks, open up fights here with those automatic, pick hooks from Meko. Mano's going to be using the Halt. Meko's going to get an easy hook. They've got to try and give the man advantage and roll the fight from there.
See if the Valiant roll out with this lineup. So Kariv will be playing Widowmaker. Usually you see him on the support role, but he can play DPS as well. Agilities will play Roadhog. They'll have Fate play Orisa, and soon will take up Bastion responsibilities as Envy will play Hanzo. So very different setup here coming out from the Valiant. You have your off tank in this type of situation playing Hanzo, and you have one of your flex supports here playing Widowmaker.
Yeah, and they're not liking it, to be honest. Zoon's already gone down here. Meko was able to get access to the payload. Notice how Fate put that bubble down on that barrier. Wasn't really in the ideal position to protect their Bastion. Agilities now is out in the open. The last place a Roadhog wants to be now hooked in, and it's going to be an easy dinner at this stage for Meko to pick him off. Envy, though, this is... we don't see this from him much at all.
Really odd.
Switch to McCree. He actually found Sabiobi there in that fight. I just don't think the Valiant had enough numbers to continue to press forward here.
And something that's really been key to the Valiant success thus far through the season, Johnny was talking about on the desk, is how strong their tank play has been. And you have your main tank now playing with Agilities in terms of your 2 tanks and those guys. Agility's mostly a DPS player, plays, he does play Roadhog, right? But then you take the Diva out of the equation here, and Envy goes over to McCree. It just kind of changes things up quite drastically here.
The reason, that's going to be nasty. Flashed up, and Envy was ready for Savior, but he might not be done yet, though. The damage boost, you'll notice the effect there. Onko making sure that McCree is as impactful as possible. It was a warning shot, concussive mine thrown in Envy's direction. He's able to roll back and avoid being knocked and taking the damage. But Kariv gets hooked in, perhaps a little bit too far forward there. And now they're going to approach the payload. Envy's there, get another flash to interrupt. No chance for the Roadhog to take a breather either. Knocked back this time properly by Libero, and has forced out the Transcendence.
It's going to be Unko, though, using the Valkyrie. He's going to get Meko. It's Arc using the Valkyrie, bringing Meko back into the fight. Unko uses his to get Soon back into the fight. Agility's here with a whole hog. As Unko still in Valkyrie, flying up high. Arc still with his Valkyrie as well. NYXL did have to use a Transcendence here. I guess the benefit for them, though, is that there's not that double support ult on the side of the Valiant, right? Because you're only running Unko on the Mercy.
It's interesting. Normally it might be someone like Soon on the Widowmaker, maybe Kariv or Unko on the Bastion. We're seeing it mixed up a little bit here. Now, Libero's going to come in with a Riptire. The Valiant very warily checking their corners and periphery. It's going to come around the right side here. Oh, hello. Soon on the Bastion there as well, just ready to receive it. It's going to be a tire taken down, but it's also for reconnaissance purposes.
You have Fate taking out Saviel B, though. It was a Halt pushing him down towards Envy. So you see Mono putting down the shield here, over by the payload.
We need to see some aggression from the Valiant here. They really need to take this power play and use it.
This is the issue with when you run
that might be it.
And that's a huge pick, because now there's no shields on the side of NYXL.
Which means that Envy can do so much more damage as well. It's so annoying for McCree to try and bust through those bubbles.
And now it's going to force NYXL to back up here a little bit. may get one more fight here.
Their res mono,
They
but
do
kind
get
of
mono.
out
They
of
actually
position.
they go around all the way on that right-hand side. They have to be very careful. They got to get back
Tank mode
towards the payload here, and it's going to be the supercharger as well.
Jonak trying to lay into Soon here, finding with some of those orbs, but this is nasty. What else would you expect? The Excelsior walk straight into the setup of the Valiant. They just make a bit of a concave setup and allow Soon to get as much damage as possible. Hardly a smile on this man's face as he knows the job is far from done. But the Valiant eventually managed to break a little bit of a slow start. Again, not super convincing. We talked about New York, being bled down in terms of time. The Valiant now need to make up some of their own.
And even though they do take out mono, they pretty much give up that res because they get great positioning there, right? They push the payload all the way around, and they know that New York has to fight from that right-hand side behind that little house. Very difficult to do much of anything.
I like this here, the Envy pick. Obviously, first of all, you can play these corners a lot. Also, a good scatter shot is going to get rid of an Orisa straight away, and that's big. With Libero being down, there's a lot of damage missing from the side of the Valiant, but that was a nice hold there. It's going to allow Mecha there to get the finish off on Agilities, and Envy. And LA trying to play in sort of two hemispheres. Not working out so well, but Kareem finds Savion.
And Unko's going to use his Valkyrie, same with Arc. So CBLB comes right back into the fight. Agility, so doing some work on the Roadhog. Envy there with that scatter arrow like you were talking about is able to take out CBLB. It'll be Libero.
This needs to be big.
Using the tire here. They're going to use Transcendence as well. They get Unko out of the sky. I believe it's just Mono, Meko, Jonak, and then you have Arc healing them up on the point. They're able to hold on. Jonak, with the help of his tanks, putting in a ton of damage there on the Zenyatta to finish off some players.
We often see Jonak featuring quite heavily in the kill feed with a bit of that cleanup action. Now, I'm interested here, Matt, to see that Soon's continuing to play the Bastion, but Envy now playing his third or fourth hero, in fact, for this round.
And you just see where having the double supports for NYXL is paying off there. Having the Transcendence plus that Valkyrie able to provide so much healing, so much sustain. See here from Jonak's POV. Guy is so sick on the Zenyatta, and now we see the changes coming in from the Valiant. So Kareev will play Zenyatta in this setup. Unko will stay on Mercy. Don't want to kind of reset any progress towards ultimates they built up. Soon, though, will stay on the Bastion here, Mitch.
Yeah, he needs to get in a good position for it. That's the problem here. The enemy team has a bit easier, or far easier, access to high ground in the first little part of this stage, so they need to kind of shepherd the Bastion into a position where they can use it to full effect. Right now, they're just sort of fighting on the ground. Here, Jonak is going to be a little bit more sparing with the right clicks and make sure he weaves in the orbs for the rest of his team, but headshots are still going to give him the damage he's looking for.
Where NYXL brought the Bastion up towards the high ground and went on a flank. Seems like the Valiant just keep on running this Bastion up towards the payload, not really even trying to go towards the high ground or potentially on the flank.
Soon's waiting for another tank mode. That's going to be the only answer here. Mecha goes down. He's actually bunning Blaster. He's looking for Soon. He's trying to heal himself up, but no! Jonak was there with the extra help. They needed the Bastion in position, and that's the second Resurrect committed to the same hero in this same fight. Soon does now have that ultimate. Tank mode's coming in. He's going to be looking for those targets as a supercharger down, but another Transcendence from Jonak. He falls down, but the healing was so important to protect his team from the tank.
Yeah, but you have Arc with a Valkyrie here, and it's going to be CBLB actually sniping the Riptire there of Envy. That's a huge kill. You could have potentially saw that Riptire come and take Arc out of the sky, but NYXL turning up here. 17 seconds left. Agility's trying to save his support.
Unbelievable!
That's the kill onto Unko. Huge play from Meko.
This guy is doing it all on his own. First, he takes down Soon on the Bastion on his own. Then, he goes and gets an easy kill on Kareev, then finds Unko. Essentially unassisted, that man on the Diva made so much happen. And this is a rare thing to see. So many fights happening in the second stage. And no matter what the Los Angeles Valiant threw with the NYXL, it wasn't enough. What a show we've got so far.
Yeah, you think the Valiant may have stayed on that Bastion pick for too long, and it's just very difficult with just that one support ult to break on through there when you have the Transcendence and the Valkyrie up. Now, most of the fights on the side of NYXL.
Incredible stuff. NYXL taking more and more than they're offered by the Valiant here. And again, the Valiant really need to step up here. They know what's on the line. They know what people expect of them. They've seen the social media. They've seen Twitter. They know what the Korean teams are saying about them. They're receiving respect, but they know that this is where they prove themselves properly. As we've seen plenty of Western teams struggle to go up against the might of Korea. It's time for the Valiant to step up in map 2.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by Intel and Omen by HP.
Soon, DPS is can. Los Angeles Valiant.
Soon is one of the best tracers, I feel like, in this league.
My playstyle with Tracer is always aggressive, as these are high mechanical heroes. We need to aim, we need to dash, we need to do a lot of things in the same moment.
Oh, soon though, winning that battle.
I'm from France, so I'm a baguette. We have Koreans, we have Canadian, and me and Uncle, we have French, and we come to the team. Yeah, for me, it's a good family.
Los Angeles Valiant needed that so badly.
Have a team is really important in Overwatch. If you don't have the good synergy, it makes a huge difference during the match.
LA! Final moments, the Valiant make it happen.
And if you didn't get to see a heck of a lot of Overwatch before the Overwatch League kicked off, you may not know too much about Soon and I guess the French legacy that was left in the competitive scene before we got to this point. But obviously part of an incredible team called Rogue. Unco was his teammate. Both Soon and Unco, by the way, are world champions in previous FPS games. So these guys are career gamers, career professionals. They've been doing this for quite some time. And this is probably one of their biggest challenges, of course, of the Overwatch League so far. A huge opportunity to step up, because realistically, the Valiant didn't get to play any of those really top three teams in the preseason or week one.
Yeah, it's a huge opportunity for the Valiant in this match against NYXL. We'll go through some of the subs that are happening here. It's just two. You have Janice subbing in for Mono. So in the past, we've seen Janice come in on Control. This time, we're going to see him on Horizon Lunar Colony. And on the side of the Los Angeles Valiant, you have Silk Thread coming in for Agilities.
All right, give me some of that. That's a decent move, of course. Silk Thread shown to be incredibly proficient. Although some of the ways that he has been used have kind of overlapped with what we've seen Agilities play. We've seen excellent Genji play. We've also seen the Junkrat. We've seen quite a few looks from this guy. So definitely a reasonable substitution we're bringing into the team at this time. But we're talking about this in the break, man. We kind of said that the Junkertown was kind of the map that the Valiant really needed to win.
Yeah, it seems to be the map that the Korean rosters have struggled with the most here in the Overwatch League. Has been Junkertown, but And they're able to take Junkertown. I don't want to say with relative ease, but once they got into point B, it seemed like the Valiant just stayed on that comp for a little bit too long to make something work. I think coming into Horizon Lunar Colony, though, they do have a very good chance in this map, does the Valiant, right? You can put out a lot of different strategies. We see sometimes like the Moira and the Sombra on offense. We've seen teams, the Halt and the Hook on the defense, up to the Junkrat on the high ground. So there's a lot of things that the Valiant could throw at NY in this matchup.
And we talked about some stats, of course, from the previous round, something we didn't really get to see, but most importantly, we were discussing just how frightening the tank and support play was from New York there. I think it was Meko that, was 25 eliminations, 2 deaths. Jonak again put in a huge performance. Mind you, he wasn't playing Zenyatta for the entirety of the map. He started off actually playing that Bastion, but he again put in a huge performance. Again, very similar sort of line, not dying very much, getting, mid-20 in terms of those eliminations. So again, with that D.Va play, we got to see it firsthand. Yeah. We got to see just how much that, Meko was able to do on his own in terms of just diving these supports. D.Va is pretty strong right now. Micro rockets are a thing. Yeah. But again, being able to do that kind of stuff unsupported is something we see from these Korean teams, by the way, because they really know when to pick their opportunities to find these squishy targets.
Well, for me, Jonak in that first map, he's at like 7k healing and then around 10,000 damage on the Zenyatta. It's just so much extra damage that you're getting, out of a support player now. So it's just such a huge win for this roster when you have him in the lineup now that he's 18 or didn't play during the preseason. Between the damage that he's putting down himself, the Discords and the Harmony Orbs as well, it just provides so much utility.
So let's talk about the substitutions then a little bit. We mentioned Silk Thread, but now we have Janus coming into this roster. So what do we expect to see from New York? What does that indicate to us?
Well, we've only seen Janus play on Control for this roster, so maybe you see them go with a little bit more of an aggressive dive, right? If Mono is in, Mono can play Reinhardt, Winston, or Risa. We've seen him play at a very high level. Maybe we see a little bit more aggression come out of NYXL on Horizon Lunar Colony. So maybe that's the plan here out of NYXL. I think you have Libero in the game. We've seen him play Genji before. You have Saviel B, obviously, world-class tracer, so you can play that, real strong dive comp if you want to go for that high ground on the offensive side of things.
Well, it's about time to head to the moon, ladies and gentlemen. Map 2 is on the books and on the cards. At least we hope it'll be a very, very staunch performance from the Valiant here to bring the series back, at least to a parity state. A little bit of wavering in that first map cost them. I mean, they had so many opportunities, Matt. Their defense looked so good until they were cut apart in a fight that didn't require any ultimates, when ostensibly defenders should have had the advantage. They let their backline get picked apart.
And we talked about how this is a huge matchup for both of these teams, right? Almost like a proving grounds of sorts. It's huge for Silk Thread.
Fire in a way,
Silk Thread as an individual player, right? I mean, this is probably the biggest match he's competed in thus far. Going up against some of the best competition in the world here. So
he's pretty gung-ho though, I spoke to Ted in the makeup room where we're getting all, daubed up, gussied up for you guys, and he said, if this doesn't work out, I'll just go back to college. I'm all Gucci here. I'm like, fair enough, bro. So at least, he didn't appear to be feeling the pressure, despite being maybe one of the less proven players on this roster, going up against the toughest opposition they've faced so far in this season.
I never really thought about that, because they have to do so much work on you. With the makeup, you're able to have such long conversations with these players, because you see all the rosters for the day come on in. I'm not in there for that long.
Yeah, see, when I walk out, I wondered why they called me Lazarus, and now I realize that he was like the character in the Bible that gets brought back to life, and now I realize what the joke is. So, great one. Yeah, no, I get to hang out in there a fair bit, Matt. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
take my time.
Yeah, they work on you a bit, but hey, they make you look decent for the broadcast.
Yeah, it's possible.
Passable.
I'll take what I can get these days, Matt.
On defense, the Valiant, they'll be going with Silk Thread playing Genji here soon, playing Tracer, so they're going to go pretty aggressive on defense. There's not going to be like an Orisa here, no Widowmaker on the defense for the Valiant. NYXL, look at this lineup they have out here now. Potentially, okay, so
that's what we should think when we see Janus, right?
Yeah. Janus playing Rein, you'll have Meko playing D.Va, Saviel B will be playing Roadhog, so they're going to go quad tank here. Okay, Lucio for the speed, and then Moira for a ton of ult.
Yeah. The Reinhardt is going to protect the rest of the team as they cross. There's no Widowmaker for the Valiant right now, so they can't really get picked off as they go. But look at Jonak already, 61% ult percentage. We're going to coalescence right around the corner.
Yeah, with so many big targets, and they're just so close together, you're able to get so much AoE healing. See, he's already at 85% towards his ult, putting down a lot of damage as well. A coalescence already here for Jonak. Oh, by the way, Envy falls. Fate has fallen as well.
Yeah. Don't worry about the play-by-play, bro. Just watch my boy Jonak give him the big slap. Yep, Let's go, New York.
The emote there at the end.
And I've got to say, right, you often see Biotic Orb used by Moira players, mostly for offensive purposes there. It doesn't recharge a Biotic Grasp for healing, but it does do annoying damage. But you're going up against the D.Va, right? She can just eat up your orb. So why not? Know you're going to take so much poke damage, throw a healing orb out in close quarters and give your team all that juicy health.
And in one way, this is a way to force them down from the high ground here on point B, right? You just get these big tanks, especially with no Junkrat on the other side. Get onto the point. You see Silthred's going to use a Dragon Blade there. Jonak takes him out using the Coalescence, providing so much healing and damage for NYXL.
I said, Jonak's going in with the Coalescence. They're not going to need the Dragon Balls to bring back most of Excelsior at this stage. It's good progress. Losing Janus might have hurt them, but the Reinhardt out on the point is always going to be vulnerable. It's a good response, though. Envy's actually found himself multiple kills in this fight, 3 by my count. And Silthred finally fires up, but that was a little bit of a nail biter.
You see NYXL make some changes. Libero is getting very close to a grab, but you're going to switch off of it here. You're going to have Libero play Genji. Jonak will go back to Xan. Oracle play Mercy. So this is a little bit more standard of what you've seen out of NYXL. The Valiant now have some ultimates to work with here, though. Kariv does have Valkyrie and Envy with a self-destruct.
See my boy Kariv going to be out there like Shenron, bringing them all back. With the Valiant now, just need to be very careful not to lose that first pick. Meko, self-destruct is there. He was just... I mean, he was a terror in the night in that previous map. Kariv gets taken down first. Again, one of the first to fall these fights. You can't let this happen.
Sabiel B gets Kariv and Unko within like 5 seconds of each other, just taking out both supports here. It's going to be Kariv using Valkyrie off of the spawn here. It'll be Envy with a self-destruct, drops on the point. All the kills here going in favor of NYXL. Kariv will bring Soon back into the fight, and Fade as well. Sabiel B here with a Pulse Bomb. See if he can connect maybe here onto Unko. Drops it low, not able to get it.
Well, this has been fortunate. The Valiant been able to bounce back in this fight, not giving away a tick and buying enough time for Kariv to get back. But that's the one clip on towards Unko. Jonak was just brought back, so that's a Zenyatta, a difference of 1. And now with Kariv falling yet again, eventually it was going to happen. As soon as the Valkyrie timed out, he would have been in trouble. And this is scary. Now the Transcendence for Jonak. Just the icing on the cake for the Excelsior now to hold this point, to pressure in. Dragon Blade here, but it's a Transcendence. He's timed it well, though. It's just timed out, and Jonak's forced to back away. Envy comes in. The Doomfist makes an appearance. Jonak's pasted up against the wall. And once again, Los Angeles try and keep themselves in this fight.
It looks like they may stabilize here on T10's. Meko will take out Envy. He will eventually get demeched. Sabiel B still here, but that should be the fight. It'll go to the Valiant there. There's some progress is made by NYXL. We'll see coming into this next fight, though, because you know that there's no support ultimates online for the Valiant. You saw both of them come out there during the fight. Libero does have a Dragon Blade, getting very close to it, 88%. He'll
oh, no!
He gets these picks out of nowhere with the right click, so you lose Unko right away. Now Libero getting very close to the Dragon Blade, 98% and counting. Maybe you pull it out here. It's a big kill, though. They do get Jonak out of the fight. Kariv will get the res onto Unko, so it's a big turn of events there for the Valiant.
I mean, again, if you're a Valiant fan, that is very frightening. Yours and Yana getting picked off at long range there by someone like Jonak. Yo, Unko's going to respect this. I mean, he's been considered one of the best ends in the West for so long now, but yo, this is a completely different stage now. He's got to tighten up a little bit more. Libero has a Dragon Blade, Soon's fallen early in the fight, but Unko's found Sabiel, so both traces are missing for the time being. Arc does have that Valkyrie, so he's used that immediately to bring Sabiel back up in the fight. Kariv's a little bit away from his own now. Dragon Blade time from Silver. He found Jonak has started off, and Libero's going to try and respond. They're going to clash swords. The feint and riposte might be an issue, but Unko's found Libero to shut him down. Again, take away some of the momentum of the Excelsior. Janus is also low, but he has Primal, perfect timing. He had 1 HP, now going in. Unclear if he has the teammates to help him with this one, and now his health is getting stripped away from him. He gets knocked into the wall by the rocket punch. Envy bringing that extra damage, and Excelsior just need to pause.
Fate uses his Primal Rage as well to start knocking some players back, and Libero held on to that Dragon Blade for such a long time. I wonder if NYXL thought that either Unko or Kariv had the support ult going into the fight yet again. As they come in, there's a few opportunities for them to use it, and they opt not to. Here's going to be Transcendence coming in for NYXL. They're able to get Unko and Silthred here. Kariv, though, uses the Valkyrie for the Valiant. He brings back Silthred. Then everybody just gets toppled on here for NYXL. Now you got nothing really out of that Transcendence.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you lose the fight, but no, the Valiant wouldn't have to use the Valkyrie there if it had been a cleaner dive. I mean, if the Valiant jump on NYXL, knowing or at least believing that they don't have Transcendence, and then Transcendence gets popped, that's pretty frightening. That's not what you expect. They could have lost the game there, actually. So Good on Kareev for getting in. Mercy does these things. Match just brings people back to life. It's kind of her thing. And with him able to do that with the Valkyrie, it kept him in this. It could have been scary. Fate did well to jump in and respond as fast as he did, but that was risky. Oh, Libero walks into that one. I didn't think he was in range, Matt, but that's going to slow the Excelsior again.
They're going to have to back on up here. They do have Valkyrie. For NYXL, I'm not going to use it right now. They're not in a position to make a push. Silk Thread with the Dragon Blade. And you have Unko with his own Transcendence coming in for the Valiant. So can they force out the Valkyrie before the Blade? Maybe you actually can connect with that Mercy as soon as she pops Valkyrie, right? You can kind of slice on through her. We'll see what Silk Thread can get done with it.
Again, position now to jump down from. It's a deep dive, but he hasn't quite found the target he was looking for. And now he has a dash, but he's kind of afraid to use it. If he doesn't get a kill immediately after using that, it wouldn't have had any mobility. So that kind of fizzles. And we're soon falling to Libero there. The McCree obviously being quite lethal to the Tracer now. Silk Thread has to get it done the old-fashioned way. Jodak's back in the corner. He's getting killed. Defense mate just to keep him alive, but there it is. It's going to be the stab in the back, and Fate found him with a Primal Rage. Fists are flying, and so far the Valiant are coming out on top, but it's going to be 12 rounds and more in this boxing match. The Valiant recover again. Silk Thread close to get another Dragon Blade. He wants more, but he needs to respect the Winston.
Now for NYXL, these pushes have not worked out, whether they're going for the high ground or going for that bottom left-hand side. Libero getting close to a Deadeye. Maybe you can get that pop Kareev out of the sky as soon as he uses Valkyrie. Unko with Transcendence here, and Silk Thread
is a dive.
Mind you, already very close to another Blade, 90%.
Trying to pressure Libero here. Don't give the McCree any room, but he's looking for a Deadeye. He threads the needle. Unko falls down to that one, immediately resurrected. Mercy meta. That's how it works. Libero rolling back, and this is what the Valiant are trying to do. Aggressive dive, pressure the McCree, give him nowhere to run, get rid of the main damage source from the Excelsior, and then just smash Jonak into little pieces there. Not the kind of puzzle that's worth it for a rainy day.
And as soon as they actually connect with Unko at the beginning of the fight, Libero with that Deadeye, Janice and Sabielby dive all the way in the back because they know Kareev is going for the res. Kareev uses Valkyrie, brings Unko right back in.
This is so big. 11 seconds left, and the Valiant so far have shut the door in NYXL's face. It's only one tick, but this could be big. Envy's ultimate is the key one here. We're going to have a Primal Rage and a Pulse Bomb coming up, and now it's on. We see the dive straight into the need to do with Janice. Quickly gets discorded. Nice use of the Zenyatta damage boost there for Unko, and then he's found Libero. Unko rolling this fight. It's like a unicorn map, or the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. This is a rare thing to see. NYXL, generally on this map, have looked confident and comfortable, but this time they get completely stumped. Yo, let's head back and hear a little bit about what the Valiant were talking about in this game, see what the comms were like in this game so far.
Ready to go? I'm ready.
No. Yeah, me. Then. Okay. Don't go deep.
I'm dead.
I go point. Point Genji, I'm Genji. Genji one. Ready to go right. Let's go right.
Go.
Mercy one.
Point.
I think there's a lot being said there. You can see, again, the way the calling structure works on this particular team seems fairly democratic, but that's an impressive defensive hold on this map. Again, not something you see very often.
And a lot of the point B holds we've had that have been successful have been because of the Junkrat on the high ground, right? No Junkrat on the side of the Valiant there. They just go Genji, Tracer, they just dive them pretty straightforward. Whether they're going for that bottom left side, they get very aggressive on the Libero, who's playing the McCree. They push him all the way back. Whether they're going for the high ground, they did a great job denying access there. There's great defense from the Los Angeles Valiant. Now we get to see NYXL on the defensive end. So it looks like here you will be seeing the Orisa Roadhog combination setting up on the high ground with Libero on the Junkrat. Sabielby playing Widowmakers. This is a very difficult setup we've seen. The teams have a tough time breaking this.
Yeah, it's the kind of thing where you really need to get the theory nailed down about, how theoretically, how do we pick apart this composition? It's about knowing what to play, but also why you play a particular attacking comp to break this kind of high ground sort of turtle hole.
Well, we saw Philly have a really tough time trying to break this down in the series that we casted previously, right? They just kept jumping up towards that high ground. They just kept trying to fight it every single time. Now, what do you do here? You go down that bottom left-hand side, force it back towards the point. You deny some access for Sabielby on the Widowmaker.
Yeah, if you try and play the left side, you're at risk of getting picked off by Sabielby before you get to the point. That's a problem.
And if you go down this bottom right, you're also in trouble of just, a ton of small area down there, just getting chunked down by Junkrat, right? Just Junkrat just poking over and over and over again.
Exactly. Playing in this room is so risky. Yeah, Envy. You can save the pleasantries for after, mate. Thinking about the approach. So, I mean, there's no real easy way of going about this because of the presence of the Junkrat and the Widow. They both do different things differently. And the attackers, again, their options are kind of limited if either of those heroes are popping off at NYXL.
Well, I guess here's your best option if you're the Los Angeles Valiant. If you're Soon, you can get onto the point, and it looks like they're only sending Libero down here on the Junkrat, so that takes away a ton of front damage coming out on that high ground. Libero gets the best of Soon there. Mecha will take out Silk Thread. But I did like that strategy there from the Valiant. You know, Soon forces Libero down from the high ground, and then you can go up, challenge it a little bit harder.
So different teams have kind of gone about this different ways. Some have used Lucio to speed boost them, you know, straight around like the opposite side to where the Excelsior are holding, so push around the left if you're looking from the attacker's perspective. Some have gone straight under them, by the way, and that's actually been one of the most effective plays. You just run under the platform where Janice and Neko are standing right now. I believe we saw that yesterday on a couple of occasions. Right now they're trying to use Soon to win a 1v1 against a Junkrat, which is not an easy job, especially with having double mines and all that. There might be something more solid here.
I've actually liked some of the play we've seen, you know, with Sombra on offense here on Horizon Lunar Colony, right? You get that EMP, whether it's on the point or whether it's up on the high ground. There you go. So Libero goes down from that high ground. They come in around the other side, and Envy takes him out. Now you have a few members here for the Valiant on the point. They've already got one tick, getting very close to taking another.
Yeah, it's important. Remember, all they need to do is to finish the map, essentially. So the ticks here, even if they're not going to win, the fight immediately is okay. They still have a couple of minutes, and they're saving ultimates. This is the most important part. They're banking support ultimates. Valkyrie and the Transcendence is available for the Valiant, whereas on the side of the XL, it's only that Valk. No real true AoE healing.
Well, you have Dragon Blade as well here for the Valiant. So you have Dragon Blade, Self-Destruct. All you had to use there was Primal Rage, and you forced out Whole Hog and Transcendence from the side of NYXL.
That's not how you want to start this fight at all.
Not ideal. Libero here with this Riptire, though, could be huge, right? We've seen Riptire, you know, there's a lot of spots where you can run it up walls here. You can chase Karif if he goes into Valk.
If the Valiant lead is too long, so they could have used Karif there to get a res to go in with the Valkyrie and start the fight. It's a bit telegraphed, but if they leave it too long, a Riptire can completely screw the Valiant over here. They could just mess them up entirely. Libero coming in again. This is an interesting battle. It's not like a standard 1v1 you maybe expect to see, but this is going to be one of the more important ones. Core. Fade down again.
And he almost doesn't even need to win it, just needs to kind of stay there and contest the point, right? Doesn't really need to even fight that. Okay, so Soon actually connects with the Pulse Bomb there on a Libero arc here with Valkyrie. He's going to use it. Here comes the Dragon Blade from Silk Thread.
Silk Thread goes low. We've got a bit of healing, and now he's looking for a second bite of the apple, and he's real hungry for it. Meko down. Eventually, he does fall, though. It was Libero to hit him with a concussive mine. Envy's Mech gets taken down because it was caught up there, and on the point, Fate gets his face blown up. The Transcendence for Unko. The timing wasn't great. The positioning also wasn't stellar. Now he's going to go for a 1v1 against Dronak. Oh, Karib! It's a gentleman's duel. What are you doing? He still gets involved and he gives the Valiant a chance. Unko maybe just a sigh of relief that he didn't have to face up against that Titan 1v1. But the Valiant don't have the point yet. The shielding for Orisa is making it a little bit hard for them to get full control, but they're a little bit closer now. The reinforcements are coming for NYXL.
You do have Jonak potentially coming back into the fight, getting very close to a Transcendence. Meko takes out Fate here.
They've got to go now.
Final few seconds here for the Valiant. They need to get on the point.
Silk Thread, no Dragon Blade to be seen. Soon getting picked off in this fight there. No way to bring him back. There's no Valkyrie available for Kree, but it's a 1v1. Meko down, but Silk Thread falls. And no, the wheels are falling off the bus, and the Valiant seem to have taken a wrong turn in Albuquerque. Failing to get that first point. And again, it's a game of inches, Matt, but at the end of the day, you look at that scoreboard, and it reads 2-0 in favor of the NYXL.
And Janice there on the point. You know, the supercharger was huge there. You know, the Orisa ultimate that gives the damage boost to everybody in the AoE because they had lost Libero, lost Saviel B at that moment in time. It's just him, Meko, and both supports, and you give Jonak the damage boost, he can do a lot of work with it.
Unlike many teams, especially, you know, predominantly Western teams we've seen, the Valiant are actually very good at defending. A lot of their defensive halves have been their best, as opposed to teams being very good at attacking and being aggressive in other maps. But it's time now to pull their socks up and get ready, because we're going to be heading into control after the break. Some brawl action here in the Blizzard Arena.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by Intel and Omen by HP.
Halftime, and it's been all New York in the first half. They currently lead our hometown squad, the Los Angeles Valiant, 2-0. And here to break down the action, I'm your host, Chris Puckett, alongside Crumbs and Reinforced once again. Let's get right into the games here as we talk about Junkertown. It's been the first map. It's so many matches. We've seen so many different strategies. And for a lot of these teams, they're using their support players, the guys that are normally healing. They're now in a DPS role like we saw Jonak on the Bastion here for New York.
Yes, we saw Jonak on the Bastion, of course. But then New York excelled. They got a bit stuck on the second point. And so it was a question mark, how are they going to break it? And finally, in overtime, they managed to swap to Libero on the Genji, of course. So I'm really stunned by New York Excelsior's ability to swap between all of these heroes and all of these strategies. We have Jonak on the Bastion, and then on Zenyatta, he's fragging even more. And then Libero can play the Hanzo, can play the Genji, and McCree.
That shot. That shot was probably the most impressive thing outside of Meko chasing people down as the diva. But as we look through, Johnny, this is what you're talking about. They switched to the dive comp. When do you want to make this major adjustment, moving away from the shields and instead going with more aggressive heroes?
Well, we saw LA Valiant playing a Junkrat and a Widowmaker. So they have two people placed on two different parts of the map. And then you sort of need the dive composition with the Genji and Tracer to choose whether you want to shut down the Widowmaker or the Junkrat. If you play more of a slow composition, then you have the same situation we saw Dallas Fuel were put in, where they just managed to get beaten down over time. So swapping to the dive composition, they managed to take out the Widowmaker on the second point, and then agilities on the Junkrat. He can't really do it all by himself, and they managed to capture the map.
Speaking of agilities, Crumbs, you said coming into this one it was going to be the Valiant walking away with the victory. Did you expect Silk Thread or agilities in the starting lineup today?
Well, I kind of thought that they were going to go with Silk Thread initially, because having agilities in the lineup for the first map ended up putting Envy, the tank, on the McCree as the hit scan role. So I think that maybe they weren't expecting to need a McCree later on, and so they felt comfortable putting agilities in for the first half. I mean, we don't really know exactly what they were going for in terms of what each player brings to the team and what they think is valuable in them for putting them in the starting lineup. So maybe now Silk Thread stays as they had a better hold.
Yeah, so far in this match, or in the Overwatch League, we haven't seen agilities. We have seen agilities play the Genji and the Junkrat, but we haven't seen Silk Thread play the Junkrat at all. So I suspect that for Junkertown, they maybe wanted agilities to be put on that Junkrat, and then later on, they might have wanted to swap to the Genjis and the hit scan, and that's where we put in Silk Thread. So if Silk Thread can pick up the Junkrat, then agilities is pretty much out of his job.
He can play everything else pretty darn well. I wouldn't put past the Junkrat. Let's talk a little bit, Junkrat. Let's talk a little bit about Jonak, though. You highlighted him before the games. Did he live up to the hype for you?
This guy is always living up to the hype for me. I don't know. I just have this feeling this guy is basically a superstar in the making here. He's flexing away. So just to put it into perspective, he played Bastion and Zenyatta on Junkertown, but his Bastion damage per 10 was 5,800, whereas Zenyatta was higher than the Bastion damage per 10. It was 8,325, and here, right after he comes out of trance, he's got the shield, he's got the aim to hit these shots, and that's really what's making the key difference for him. He actually hits more shots than other Zenyatas, has higher damage, and just does so much more than any other regular Zenyatta.
How do you do more damage on Zenyatta than Bastion? This doesn't make any sense to me.
I can't tell you. I'm sorry. Is he a bad Bastion? That's it, maybe. That's
well,
the only
you see that shot, though?
I can't explain
He made the shots count. Catching a Valking Mercy is always impressive. Let's take it now to the second map. New York is leading 1-0. This is where you answer back if you're the Valiant. But right away, it's New York coming in and really establishing some dominance.
Yeah, there's been two real approaches to tackling Horizon Lunar Colony. The two most successful ones that you run quad tank, as Uber was mentioning. You go underneath and then you basically get on the point, and that's what we saw out of the New York Excel. We're actually looking at them.
These are the general highlights here. Let's start with just some of the best moments. And Sabiolbi went off a Tracer. You said he's one of the best Tracers. What do you think of his Roadhog?
Well, the Roadhog is really good as well. I mean, we've seen for a very long time in the Korean meta over in Apex, we saw a lot of triple tanks, etc. About a year ago, and Sabiolbi back then, he was also a very proficient Roadhog, and that was back when Taimo, for example, was playing the Roadhog as well. So all of these DPS players, they have the Roadhog pick up their sleeve, and they're finally coming out here.
All right, we saw a pretty nice attack from New York. They weren't able to finish the job, but they walk away with the victory. And Crumbs, now we can break down really the attack that we saw out of the New York Excel, because we've seen a number of different strategies. Everything from send the tanks out while you charge up your Mercy's Resurrect, or your Valkyrie rather, and then try and push in. Or in this case, they went with a heavy load here for New York.
All right, so every time you go for this, it's either you go full tank, or you go with the Sombra Tracer combination that we've seen work as well. You basically pressure the sides before you force the enemy down, but this time it was with the Moira. And look at the time here, 3 minutes and 35 seconds remaining, and he is almost at ultimate. He actually charged his ultimate in 29.49 seconds, and that shows you why this strategy works. You have Lucio, you have Moira inside the point, and they have unlimited healing for everybody that has way more HP than anybody else, so you get your ultimate so much faster, and with that you just bully out anybody from the point.
All right, Johnny, close us out here as we take a final look at the action from Horizon Lunar Colony. What are you about to break down for us on the
I'm about to break out. We've talked a lot about Jonak getting a lot of picks on the Zenyatta, of course. But as we jump into this, we're going to see how LA Valiant are countering that. So as we play this clip forward, we're going to see in the kill feed, of course, Jonak getting a pick onto Unko very early. And then New York XL immediately they want to capitalize. So we're going to see Mano coming down the center here with the Winston. And he's going to jump onto the point, grabbing all that space. Oh boy. But then immediately, Los Angeles Valiant, they're coming in from all different angles here, and we have a Diva behind the corner as well. So they're trying to effectively counter-push New York XL here and get counter picks to ensure that as this fight goes on, New York Excelsior doesn't get to dictate the fight their way, and they don't manage to get a man advantage going into the fight.
So jump on Jonak seems to be the key. Wait for the bait, let those tanks come in, and then counter with a punishment. Is that the solution now going into maps 3 and 4? How do you bring it back if you're the Valiant right now?
Well, Mono on the Winston, he likes to grab space. Looking at this New York Excelsior squad, looking at the tanks, they love grabbing space and jumping very aggressively. So if LA Valiant has the patience to wait those leaps out, or the Diva flying through with the Mako, obviously, then you can counter-engage, and there is no Diva, there is no Winston to actually peel off the LA Valiant dives. So if they have the patience to wait for Mono to do these jumps prematurely, then I think that LA Valiant has a choice to counter dive.
All right, Crumbs, we've seen it before. It's New York up 2-0. If you're the Valiant, who do you need to be most worried about? Jonak, Sabiobi. We haven't even seen Pine yet. What do you think our green squad needs to do?
I think they need to be focusing on themselves, actually, because their attack on Horizon was very lackluster. Instead of tackling either Sombra or Tracer or going with tanks, they decided to just brute force dive composition onto high ground forever, forcing a couple of members down. But the Junkrat versus the Tracer was not going to amount to anything because you didn't do enough of a good job to actually force him off. You've got the Zenyatta orbs to heal him, and the Mercy damage boost means that Mine is a real threat every single time. So I think that they need to just refine what they know of the maps before looking towards New York and what they can exploit from.
I'm looking for a big match out of Silk Thread here if they want the win. That is going to be our halftime coverage. And coming up a little bit later today, we've got a great matchup between the Philadelphia Fusion and the LA Gladiators. But earlier in the week, we were able to catch up with Joe Meister from the Fusion to get some insight into the settings that are so important to players' performance in the Overwatch League. This is this is Game Set sponsored by Omen by HP.
My name is Joe. Most of you may know me as Joe Meister, and I'm playing for the Philadelphia Fusion in the Overwatch League. Settings are extremely important for all pro Overwatch players, so having the right settings is essential, I guess, to our performance. I need to feel like I'm, comfortable when I'm playing to be able to play to the best of my ability. If I don't have the right settings, I'm probably going to notice, and I'll definitely look to change those as soon as possible. I mean, it's that important. If anything feels off, like that could be enough for me to, just have something in the back of my mind that probably shouldn't be in my mind at all if I'm about to play an important match. Since I am a Lucio player primarily, I like to stick to default keybinds on Lucio, which is something not too many Lucio players do. You'll often find that they'll bind like scroll wheel, for example, to their jump. I prefer using spacebar, for example, with a mix of scroll wheel, so I'm not always using scroll wheel. So I prefer the default settings just because it's what I started out playing Overwatch with, and I've just kind of stuck with it, and optimal performance is key to my ability to feel comfortable on stage.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by Toyota. Let's go places.
1, 2, 3.
Now this New York lineup was able to hold off the Boston Uprising once again with the 3-1 victory to kick off the regular season.
시작이 좋은 것 같은데요. 첫 단추가 잘 끼워진 것 같아요. 한국에서 많이 쓰는 말인데 이게 첫 번째 단추가 잘못 끼워지면은 삐뚤어지게 끼워지잖아요, 전부 다. 이제 잘 끼워지면은 나머지도 올바르게 계속 좋은 결과가 있다는 거죠.
Here comes Pine. Gets one, gets two. Looking for a bit more, gets another one. Are you kidding me? Big Boss Pine is on the scene. This guy is unstoppable.
일리우스에서 두 번 다 나왔는데 두 번 다 이제 세계 최고의 맥크리 에임을 보여줬다고 생각해요. 앞으로도 그럴 거라고 생각해서 믿고 있습니다.
It's an opportunity for Houston coming in. Oh, did I say opportunity? That's before Sibilby started lighting up his kill feed. He hasn't even used his pulse bomb yet. Another kill on the Muma.
미도를 플레이할 땐 맵에는 이제 파인 선수가 확실히 이제 강한 힘을 발휘하는데 테니스 할 때는 반대로 또 SBB가 강한 힘을 발휘하니까 주고받고.
아, 형 근데 트레이서하고 미도밖에 못하잖아.
테니스랑 미도밖에 못한다고?
알았어요.
이거 원챔 새끼가 기다려봐.
The boss is in, ladies and gentlemen. Pine subbing in for Saviobi here. And I have a request, bare hands. I know you're out there, I know you're watching, I know you're listening. I want this man in a pinstripe suit, a bowler hat, and I want 20s swing music next time it comes out to the stage. He's the boss man, and he's in here, of course, to play on that control map, Matt.
Yeah, and Mono's going to come in for Janice as well, so it's a little bit of a flip of what we've seen from this NYXL team in the past. We've seen Janice come in on control. This time Mono comes in for Janice. And it'll be Oasis, the map, coming up next. So no changes on the side of the Valiant. They'll run Silk Thread out again. It's really the only one we've seen from them so far throughout the season, right? Whether it's Silk Thread or Agility's in. I think NYXL makes these changes, potentially, Mitch. You know, you get Pine in the game, you could have a good counter to Pharah play if the Valiant decide to run Pharah, and you keep Libero in who can run the Pharah and Genji.
Because we haven't seen them on this map yet, right? We normally just see them on Ilios where maybe the Pharah is not as desperately designed.
Yeah, and also I think on this map as well, there's a lot of in Oasis in general, there's a lot of close angles where I think Ilios, Tracer is obviously much better. We see a lot of times on Oasis. You can see on this point, they run the Orisa and the Roadhog, and they try and just use the Junkrat a little bit more. So maybe we see SaveLB not play here on Oasis. I know more often. This will be the first time we get a chance to look at New York on this map.
Third map in our 4-map set. 2-0 in favor of the NYXL now. It is now or never, by the way, where Los Angeles must pick up another map. They need to do it here to give themselves a fighting chance in this series. Otherwise, it'll be not the performance that we're looking for, suffice to say. So again, we're going to be in just a moment again. Might see Pine on that Widowmaker to start off with, which is kind of a ballsy move on this map. It's kind of hard to get real good sightlines as Widow on this map, I figured, Matt.
Yeah, it'd be very interesting, especially with no Pharah on the other side if he decides to run the Widow here, but it's Pine's world we're just living in, right?
Yeah, you know it.
2, 1.
Okay, it looks like we're going to see the Widow. Oh, no, okay, McCree at the start. You're going to see Libero play Junkrat here, so it'll be Junkrat McCree, the combination of DPS heroes that comes out for NYXL. Mono will play the Orisa, and Meko will play the Roadhog.
And this is what I actually wanted to see, by the way, from the Dallas Fuel. Instead of running the Tracer for effect, I wanted him to be playing at McCree, because otherwise he's flanking on his own now. Pine can sort of play a little bit on his own. He can freelance a bit, but he can also play around the main bulk of his team. Bait's down early. And again, Pine's just warming up here a little bit, looking for some of these opportunities. You see Meko is never too far away. And with that first pick, another missed flashbangs, but again, Pine is putting a lot of pressure on, making them respect. Kiss that ring, soon is down. Oh, Kareem, are you kidding me? Have a bit of respect yourself. Pine was more than happy to go for that one.
And is there a little bit of an intimidation factor that comes in, right? Because the Valiant know that Pine is coming in. They're down 0-2. And then what, the first 2 kills of the game, he deletes soon.
I want him coming in like Stone Cold Steve Austin, mate, like 5 years
play
ago.
the music.
I want people hanging over the chairs, like someone screaming, oh my God, like right next to the crowd mic. I want thunder and lightning.
You may as well. I mean, the guy comes in and just puts on a show in these control maps. He's been so great on the McCree. It makes it so difficult now to run this dive composition because you get close. You have Pine there playing McCree, and you have Libero there playing the Junkrat, just ready to
Pine
destroy it.
He doesn't have to go too far, Matt. He's close to a health pack. He might need an Abbott Arcs there to protect him. There you go. He doesn't need to play in traffic. And the Los Angeles Valiant have made very little progress so far. Oh.
So that time, the Valiant decide they don't want to kind of jump back Pine on the McCree with their divers. They want to go maybe after Libero and some of the supports. And with the way Junkrat is right now, he just throws one mine that soon takes him out. Same thing with Silk Thread.
What's different between this map and Horizon, where we saw the Valiant do a good job of pressuring the McCree on NYXL?
It's just they can play over here in this close quarter area, and they have the Roadhog in this composition with that Junkrat. Just a lot of heroes. Oh.
That's the
Before he
combo.
even gets there. I mean,
that's the old ball and chain, ladies and gentlemen. No, I'm not referring to your wife, Matt.
But you have the hook, the halt, and then the Discord and Libero potentially putting down damage on the Junkrat.
And again, that one blocked.
They get the Orisa barrier down, the Winston barrier down before they even the hook comes through. So you have both support ult here for NY. Deadeye, maybe we see Pine go for some kind of Deadeye off the jump pad, right? It would just kind of fit with his style. As you see the hook come in here from Meko, putting down some damage onto the mech hero of Envy. Has a whole hog. It was Silk Thread actually who kills Pine. Libero uses that Rip Tire, he gets the D-Mech, then takes Envy out.
Jonak now coming in, a lot of teammates that need a bit of healing. Meko and Libero are down. Unko's done some serious work. 3 kills in the fight for Unko. He finally drops. But he did so much, and again, living up to the name of the Valiant, but it was just him against pretty much the entirety of the NYXL. Pine, Deadeye doesn't connect, the bubble is thrown in the way. Good presence of mind there by Fate to drop the bubble on top of the McCree. Now the Gunslinger is going to get pushed up against the wall, but he's not done yet. Tumbleweed rolled past, and Pine's got a bit of room to breathe. Kareem gets way too close here. Thinks about challenging with a blaster, and Pine gets taken down. The old 1-2 punch. And Kareem finally gets a little bit of that cathartic revenge. But LA are in control, Matt, right as the bell tolls.
Got scary there for the Valiant. Pine was able to take out Silk Thread before he had a chance to use his Dragon Blade. They had Valkyrie up, did NYXL. They're just not able to win that fight. Now the Valiant come in with some nice ults to use here. You have Unko with the Transcendence, Jonak with the Transcendence on the other side. for NYXL, but you have this Dragon Blade. Maybe you can force out Transcendence from Jonak a little bit early, then go to work with this Blade.
Man, the Excelsior are really working hard to try and flank around as far as they realize that's the strongest part of the map, by the way. They need to be here to make use of that Orisa shield. Also because it's hard to dive in without diving into like a halt or like getting caught up by Junkrat traps. It's this really overpowered spot on this map, I'll be honest with you.
Well, and then if the Valiant decide to dive that position that NY is set up in, they throw down the Supercharger. You have Libero there with a Riptire. They'll put down so much damage. They catch Pine out. They're able to jump him.
Nice. It takes 2 players, a lot of resources dedicated to getting rid of Pine, but it does the job, and the gunslinging Maverick is now put to bed. Be back for another few seconds, and that seems to have given pause for thought for the New York Excelsior here. They're contesting, they had to stand on the point to use their shield properly, and now the Riptide is going to come through. Libero looking to find Silkthread up the top here. Transcendence coming out, Silkthread now going to time it. Another good time, Dragon Blade, but he gets halted back. The Orisa making it impossible for him to access those targets in the back line, and Silkthread is going to have to content himself with a bit of damage until Pine comes in and shuts him down.
It all falls apart at the beginning. I believe you actually saw Libero take out Envy, and then soon went to go use a pulse bomb and then just died. Didn't know whether to his own pulse bomb or he could have got hit by one of the cars out there. And NYXL able to use their Transcendence off of that to push on through to the point. They would take our first round of control.
Feels like the Valiant took a long time to really start to figure out this hold of that NYXL, using that particular side room. And it's interesting how New York sort of identify the most well-fortified place on the map to be used with an Orisa. They obviously make it very hard to try and enter close quarters. There's a Junkrat present. There's also the flashbang from Pine, who's actually not playing in those close quarters, but trying to bait people into them, and then moves out around in towards the open, playing close to a health pack. So it gives himself some degree of self-sufficiency.
Yeah, because McCree doesn't have a ton to escape, right?
Hey,
He goes out a little bit too far. The roll, I mean, yeah, you're kind of dead at that point regardless. Coming into the next point, do we see Libero potentially play the Pharah? Looks like we're going to still see him run out here on the Junkrat. It'll be the same exact composition that comes out from NYXL.
So you don't necessarily need to do that. Obviously, you're playing here with the Orisa, and they're probably going to try and hole up in, again, a certain point of the map and just turn it into their home base. We got the big boss in there. They're all playing poker.
Well, it's the same kind of setup because you have that staircase there on like the last point where you can just enter right onto the control point. You can kind of play around the Orisa barrier and just bait these teams to dive on in. And that's exactly what happens. The Valiant dive on in. Pine is able to take out Soon at the beginning of this. See if he can land the shot on Kareev. You see he just kind of lurks around. He gets Silkthread really low, not able to finish him. Fate and Envy, though, dive on in for the Valiant. They pick up some kills. Pine will take out Kareev here. So we do see it is NYXL who actually has taken the point here. See if the Valiant can fight back. It'll be Silkthread reflecting it right back in Pine's face.
Again, going in a player disadvantage up against the NYXL early is tough because you lack the players to properly deal with that threat of Pine. Good patience from the LA Valiant. Identifying that the first target definitely needs to be Pine, or at least get that high ground control, and then you advance from there. They knew that NYXL couldn't really hide or pull the wool over their eyes because they had to play around that Orisa barrier in the corner.
And NY's comp is not mobile at all, right? You have Orisa and Roadhog, Junkrat and McCree. It's like, where do they sit up? Do they try and just get back to that corner again? You see Mono throws out
down early.
Orisa's shield. Yep, they get him up top. He's trying to work around for a flank up top. Arc will get him back up, but still, it's a very difficult comp to make work here for New York. Maybe they try and take the high ground. It looks like that's where they're moving right now.
Soon down to Libero there, but it's a response. The pulse bomb was left. There's a bit of a parting gift. Definitely the definition of Pyrrhic victory there, but it's enough for Soon for the time being here. I'm sure we'll see some Mercy Reses in just a moment as Kareem's going to go in with the Valkyrie and Ever gets de-suited out. Silkthread, Dragonblade thinking about it. Whole Hog in his face, doesn't go for the reflect. In fact, didn't have it on cooldown. Going to wait out the Hog and his little tantrum before deciding to come in, but it might not be necessary to see the blade here. Silkthread, he tried to escape from the Riptire, but instead he walked straight on into it there, and now with the Valkyrie Farak, here's a chance for the Excelsior to break back into this fight. Envy tries to leave a little bit of a gift up on high, gets a chance to resuit and go again.
The Valiant still getting a ton of great progress here, 65% and counting. Libero, though, with the Junkrat mine, he'll take out Soon. Send an Envy of high into the sky. He will eventually fall. Be NYXL taking the point back here. Silkthread comes on in, just contested for a little bit longer. At that point, needs to reset B with his teammates, all trying to stay alive on the point, get some more percentage towards it. Coming into the next fight, Jonak actually holds on to his Transcendence, and that's huge. So you still have the Transcendence to block the effects of potentially that Dragon Blade coming on through.
The Valiant need to try and draw it out. So Soon is probably going to be told here, try and, you know, force this. But look where Jonak's standing. It's so hard for a Tracer to go here. He's got concussive mines, McCree flashbangs. They want to force this trance out of Jonak, but it's going to be almost impossible. If they lose a player to it, the fight's already over anyway. But you get my point.
Yeah, I mean, they lose Unko. That is a huge loss there. But they know that Soon's trying to come behind enemy lines, but he has to be so careful like you're talking about. No Junkrat traps, the grenades, the mines. Just in that close hallway, it's really easy for Libero to just get any type of spam fire down there, just, you know, random grenades.
And this is even harder for a Tracer than it would otherwise be, because you have to stay out of McCree's flashbang range, but now you have to stay out of Orisa Holt range, because that's going to mean you're guaranteed to get hooked at Unko. You don't want to pick a fight with a big boss. And Pine puts his foot down, but Libero was found elsewhere, so it's actually a DPS down for the Excelsior. That means that Pine needs to go for something big here. Why? Silk Thread up on high. Maybe was hoping to get the timing on a deflect, but they've lost their Genji now. It's all on Soon to really get the damage done. He works it out, finds Pine. Now Mecha go for the whole hog. Envy's not going to get away from here. Pinned up against the wall. It's like a game of darts gone all wrong. Mecha just about faces, deals with Soon, and this could be the last fight.
Yeah, and Soon is on the point there with Karif, but there's nothing they can do to actually flip the point back in their favor because Mono just throws down an Orisa shield and just stands behind it in the corner. Just trying to come in, chase him down. Arc now with a Valkyrie in the next fight, 98% and counting. The Valiant need to get towards the point. They get a touch. Silk Thread with the blade. Can he be the difference?
Mecha taking a lot of damage, but he just heals through it. All he takes a breather. Libero, though, falls early. That's the important pick. There's going to be a Dragon Blade here in this fight. Fate also has a Primal Rage. And the Valiant know they need to win this fight and the next one, so maybe don't use them all, but they've got no choice now with the Valkyrie being committed. It's Arc to get 2 Resurrects up, and now Meko, again, looking for a target. Doesn't fancy Envy. Defense Magic's going to make it hard to connect. Now, again, trying to look for the Diva, get that D-suit. The Meko now being the target of scrutiny himself. His teammates are falling left, right, and center. Soon gets resurrected back. Meko going down there. This could be it. In overtime, LA bring it back, and now they have both of their support ultimates. NYXL have none.
It's huge for the LA Valiant. They have both support ults plus the Dragon Blade and Pulse Bomb coming into the next fight. A huge advantage, 88% and counting. NYXL, you may get a Transcendence. You're gonna have a Deadeye, you're gonna have a Supercharger, and a Riptire here.
They've got to watch out
need to get a touch, though. It's really on Meko to get a touch as he goes over to Diva.
This Deadeye could take them apart, though. Not a Transcendence nor a Valkyrie could save the Valiant from Pine if he gets his ultimate off properly. Libero's Riptire is down. That's the first step in the right direction. Second needs to be this kill. Silk Red's found Jonak. It's a whitewash. That's going to be the Valiant to clean on up here. Overtime is going to tick down. And now we have ourselves around. Pine to fall, gets jumped into. Envy going to be looking for a chance to make it back. Has the self-destruct if he needs to deny space. But that's it. We're an even game now, and finally the Valiant spread their wings.
It's a huge final push by the Valiant to flip the point in their favor and hold on to those ultimates. I believe Fate used the Primal Rage. She was able to do a lot of work with it, and then at that point, I imagine in their comms, they said, no, hey, we feel really strong about having the point in here. No, Arc doesn't have Valkyrie. No, Jonak did not have Transcendence. Didn't need to use either of those other ultimates to take the point back, and they end up being huge at the end, right? You have your Transcendence, you have the Valkyrie, you have the Dragon Blade to use to take the point back. Do we see any changes from either of these teams, Mitch, though, coming into the final point? At least it looks like on the NYXL side, potentially, you know, Arc probably just gives the speed boost and then goes over to Mercy. So you're going to see out of New York. So same comp out of New York, same exact answer for the Valiant.
Chance here for LA to keep themselves in this series and get themselves back on the board. Both of them being, of course, entirely crucial at this stage. Holt used, just pulls Envy in, and you can see Unko again wants to start off this fight at a man advantage for his team. So looking for an early pick with those ults of destruction, taking a bit of fire from Jonak, who throws the Discord orb over towards him as well. And most of the fight has been sort of committed to now to the backside of the point. You see Silk Thread looking in, and Unko again just spraying, keeping those Discord and Harmony orbs up.
Yeah, and he has full control of the high ground because he knows that NYXL are going to play behind this Orisa shield with the Roadhog down on the point. But as soon as it goes over to the Valiant, it is NYXL answering back in a big way. Cleaning house with the members of the Valiant. It'll be Silk Thread, the only one alive. He will eventually fall. Now it goes back to New York.
Okay, so the Valiant don't want to play a long, drawn-out fight here at all. NYXL's damage output is going to stay consistently high over time, whereas a lot of LA Valiant's damage potential comes with the burst of the dive. So if you see a fight or LA don't sort of get an early pick or don't manage to get their dive properly into the back line, they're going to struggle.
And with the way that I know Mercy, she can just res that, it's almost like 2 picks they need,
You have
right,
to go
get
ham.
into the back line. You have to really put down a ton of damage.
All or nothing.
What NY can do right now is they can just play around, Mono on the point with the Orisa shield, just use the halt and the hook,
Good
and then
start.
have some of the other players play up top. It'll be soon connected with the pulse bomb on it. Jonak Spark will use Valk, bring him right back into the fight. Pine takes out Face. Now, that's going to force out Transcendence there. That's a huge play because now it's going to be both support ults invested here by the Valiant. Kareev will fall after using his Valkyrie, so not a great fight here for the Valiant.
Yeah, you can see the respect now coming out from NYXL, committing their own support ultimates to these fights, realizing that if they play at a man disadvantage, they're likely to lose out, given that these teams are so close pound for pound, at least on this particular map. Crucially, Dragonblade's going to be there for Silk Thread. Unco's going down early is less than ideal, and this is NYXL can push forward here. They're not running as Aya or Reinhardt comp, so you can't really control the chokes, but a hook here into a ball. Oh, that's nasty. Fake gets pulled out of his bubble.
And they're using the Orisa supercharger here as well. They actually push on a little bit forward, and with that damage boost with the Roadhog hook, and then the gunshot combo, we're able to take out Unco, take out Fate. Oh man, stalls out the point here. They built up a solid, 30 extra % there, actually pushing up, getting those 2 kills.
Yeah. Again, they can hunt for kills when they've got a guaranteed pick in the ball. And chain combo soon! His Achilles heel was actually his heel. Pine caught it and cleaned him up. That was when the Valiant had to go. It's got to be a resurrect onto him, surely, but Kareev doesn't have the Valkyrie. He didn't have the chance to go back in. Pine with his second of the fight. Both DPS players are down. The McCree is going nutty. Now Meko with the hook in. Does get the D-shoot. It's going to be a self-destruct, though. Perhaps a bit of a debate here as Pine waits for that to expire. Now pressuring forward. Oh, Pulse Bomb dropped at his feet. He needs to avoid that one, and Unco trying to stay on, but no, he doesn't have a stun. Pine does. It was a close one, but the Valiant just let things slip crucially here. Rezzers have to come in now. Kareev gets cut down. He had his Valkyrie. Very close. It would have been 20 more %. He didn't have the Mercy ult when he needed it there, but that was it. The NYXL recovered beautifully. What a round from them. Pushing forward to get kills, ensuring early picks on those fights. Roadhog, Orisa. It's stunning to see them execute this so effectively. The Valiant, again, they're still trying to play this dive comp, and they're not be able to stand up to the heat here. Dallas are looking at NYXL and that map saying, I wish we had that.
Yeah, and that push up forward by Mono and Meko using the supercharger, the halt and hook combo, getting those 2 picks, one on a Unco, one on a Fate, may have won him the game.
Ah, there we go. Pine all over it. We expect no less from this man, and he delivers time and time again. One more map to go for the Valiant to save at least some face. I feel you, bro. Let's see if they can recover.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by Omen by HP and by Intel.
Andrew Kim, the analyst for the NYXL, stated in an interview earlier this week that all his players say that NA and EU players are just as good as the Koreans now, and none of our players believe that there is a gap at all. Which of course kick-started a lot of discussions in the internet, considering that all Korean teams are in fact still undefeated in this league. So during halftime, I snuck into the dugout of the Valiant and talked to their coach Cuddles about this. He said that he's agreeing. Kinda. I'm paraphrasing here, but he basically agreed. He did say that there is not a big gap in skill level across the board from those players. It's more the chemistry and the infrastructure the Korean teams currently have. And as the season will progress, he does expect this gap to close. I personally can't wait to see that happening, and also I can't wait to see if they can close the gap on map number 4. And for all the action, we're heading over to our very handsome caster duo once again.
Thank you very much, Zoe. Yeah, good to get a little bit of insight. So, you know, Korean players and teams are starting to indicate that perhaps the gap is closing, and I'm using a very tired and very old adage there, but we're not seeing it on paper here, Matt. And that game was close. Again, it's going to be one of those like 3-1, 4-0 matches that were on paper not so close, but again, when you go back, we saw some incredible moments from the Valley.
It's just the teamwork and chemistry at the end of these games and able to close it out. Sabiel B will come in for Pine. Janice will come in for Mono, some substitutions on the side of NYXL. Valiant will stay the same. It's just those, you know, those last plays, those initial pushes. Every time you see some of these rosters, you know, they have no ultimates coming into the fight. They somehow end up turn it in their favor. They're just so extremely talented, and it has to be, you know, crushing for, you know, some of these, you know, Western teams to go up against. Right, you have the ult advantage going into a fight. Everything's looking all good, and somehow, you know, whether it's NYXL, London Spitfire, Seoul Dynasty, they turn that fight around in their favor.
Not a feels good for a lot of those plays there, but again, now we're going to be heading over towards Numbani. A map that does, you know, offer us an opportunity to see again another different style of play. Dive, if LA Valiant want to play that, this is a great place for it, especially on that attacking side. Get up in the face, get aggressive. Defending, again, it's going to be a matter of just trying to stave off NYXL, because we know they can dive. We also know that they have, you know, Libero in this lineup who can bring us that Pharaoh. We didn't get to see it on that previous map of Oasis, but perhaps here it's time to bring it out.
Well, Libero can play so many different heroes. Just
about everything.
Yeah, just makes it very difficult to game plan against. If you are the Los Angeles Valiant, they could run dive here. We see 76 probably get played the most here on Numbani, you know, able on the defensive end to control some of the high ground. Use him to put a lot of pressure on an opposing Pharah. That comes into play, but we'll see what the Los Angeles Valiant decide to do. They will be on defense first here to kick things off. So potentially you have Silk Thread play the 76. He can play, you know, this Genji 76, a lot of different things. Yeah, Fade's going to go off the side. Not going to see the solo tank lineup coming out.
We've seen it before, just
Triple
more on,
support,
more on, you know, previous maps of Hanamura, to be honest, in different metas, but okay.
So you see Avunko playing Zen, Kari playing Mercy. Nothing too surprising here for the Los Angeles Valiant. Fate just keeps jumping off the side of the map here.
Right?
Eventually, you imagine he goes over to Winston or Orisa. And for NYXL...
Yeah, they can't play Orisa here, I don't think.
No, yeah. For NYXL, I'm interested because they've run a ton of Orisa in this series, you know, whether it be, you know, attacking. We see Orisa more on defense. Janice will play Winston here, though. Libero will go over to Pharah, and Sabiel B will not be playing Tracer here. He'll be playing the McCree.
Yeah, so this is more about, it's a bit less about dive for the NYXL, more about getting the high ground control and using hit scan pressure from Sabiel B, and also Libero to keep heads turned towards him, so Sabiel B and the rest of the tanks from NYXL can jump in.
It's a lot like when, you know, we talk about, you know, Pharah working with a Tracer, so to speak, right? The Pharah putting down damage, the Tracer finishing them off. This is a little bit of a safer option, right? Because you force them off with the high ground with that Pharah, then you can get Sabiel B set up on the high ground, just putting shots in at a distance.
That Discord orb there making it very risky to hang around. Although Janice in a similar position, has to back away and get a little bit of HP, but again, it's free real estate for the NYXL. That's the most important part, and that was all that Jonok needed there to pick up Unco from a distance there. It's responded at the very least. So I gotta say, the Valiant are very good at, you know, making sure they even their score when they lose a player. They know when they need to get aggressive to make sure they don't get choked out slowly. Jonok gets rezzed up though.
There's no res that comes in for Kariv on Unco, that will come off spawn here. We've not really seen a ton of pressure put on Libero here in the sky, right? He's been able to get a ton of free damage down. Takes out Soon. You lose Silk Thread as well. A nice rocket there. Almost gets Envy before he gets back in the mech. But NYXL with a very good calculated push here should be able to take point A. Looks like from the minimap perspective, the Los Angeles Valiant going to back out of here. Not going to challenge it again.
I love that from New York, though. That's just really stellar. I do think that Fate actually overshot his attempt at diving on them on that high ground. He actually fell over the balcony, over the edge, and then sort of had to walk back underneath. He could have been booped, though, in all fairness, in air by Mecco. I just don't think that's what happened. Then I think the LA were in a position where like they had a Winston on the ground who was at half health, went in a position to dive, but now they want to start the fight again. Jonak trying to respect here, and he's back right away, getting plenty of healing. Trance is there if he needs it.
Silk Thread getting very close to attack visor. It's going to be Janus using his primal rage, just trying to stay alive on the point. It'll be Envy launching a self-destruct in the sky, and he's actually going to connect with Arc here. It's a big kill. Now no mercy in the fight here for New York Excelsiors. Jonak uses the Transcendence there as well, and I believe Libero towards the end uses that Rocket Barrage, maybe because you're going to switch off of the far.
Well, he might want to here because the potential for, spawn camp or, being able to create a very atrocious scenario for the defenders is actually possible here. And I like this jump up here. So basically, Fate can use the high ground now, and it's going to allow him to drop down and access the enemy team, and then have a jump available when he needs it. Kind of what Miro showed us initially back at the World Cup a couple of years ago, which has now become a staple of every Winston's repertoire in terms of mechanical approaches. Ooh, hello, sticks it! Nicely done! And Arc, not a chance to respond to that one again. Soon just really cleaned it up perfectly, and that's going to give a bit more breathing room to the Valiant once again.
And winning these fights in the fashion that the Valiants are doing, you were able to build up both support ults, another attack visor yet again. Arc does have the Valkyrie here for NYXL. We'll see when he decides to do it though. He's potentially coming around this corner. But you have both support ults on the other side, so you don't really want to burn your own Valk and then have everything just be negated by a Valk and Transcendence on the other side.
Yeah, interesting. Libero on the 76 now, so a little bit more of a safer style of play here for NYXL. NBC's Jonak on his own, but he's being healed up by the Mercy. This is why it's so hard to dive with these Zenyatas right now. So much healing provided from that back line, and the LA Valiant, of course, they kind of realize they have to commit to that fight, Matt. It doesn't work out.
And Mecca's Diva has been sick all series long.
Oh, they used both
Man's a self-destruct on 2 players. They did use both support ults there, did the Valiant. They still have attack visor. They do have a Transcendence for NYXL and your own attack visor coming in the next time. But man, Mecca, that 2-person self-destruct was huge. The Diva mech flying over the top.
Now approaching this second checkpoint. The Valiant have a little bit to work with. Self-destruct might force people off the payload for a time at least. The tactical visor for Silk Thread is going to be hard to connect. Kareem drops into that one. Sevio being Jonak cleaned him up. He found Soon. I don't even know how he managed to do that. It's like he saw him coming. And Jonak just a Transcendence over that payload just to make sure they can get there. So pretty comfortable there. LA didn't have the plays in position, Matt, and didn't really have the ultimate economy to work with. Silk Thread dive with his tac visor. Not a great look on that second phase.
You get Unko out at the end of this fight. So New York may be able to make some progress through this underpass here. Potentially we see something change from the Valiant. You're still running the 76. You're playing around this tag visor. You have not gotten a great position to use it yet.
What are you trying to do here with your 76? I mean, both sides have one in all fairness.
I don't really know. There's not really a high ground you can get Silk Thread set up in. Here's going to be the tag visor that comes in from Libero. You get Unko soon and
another one! Beautiful.
Pushing
Libero
on forward.
Don't you love that though? Don't you love that they engage with the self-destruct? They force the tanks to split from the LA Valiant, and Libero has an easy firing range. Unko didn't last very long at all. That's so nasty.
And that's why you don't see Envy there with the defense matrix. Eat it on up. Savior Lee with a pulse bomb playing right near the spawn. We'll see if he can connect on one of the supports coming out the door.
Fate drops onto the payload here. Lower on health than Mecco. Doesn't have a Mercy with him right now. And Envy's trying to protect the big Winston, but they need their own Mercy out on the point. Kareem, though, isn't quite there yet. Envy taken down. The support wasn't there for the LA Valiant. And New York, a slow start, but this is such a stellar finish. Kareem dropping down to Jonak now, and Soon thought he was there, but he wasn't. And this is how you really put a bookend on an impressive and successful series. A solid attack there. They were snarled up a little bit on that second phase, but really that was the only time the NYXL had trouble.
And when we're watching from that free camp POV, you saw Envy on Diva come out of that left side door and get onto the payload to contest for the Valiant. And what happens? Sabiel B and Janus just go right for the other door. They use the pulse bomb. They get a ton of free damage on the players walking out. They finish off 2, then work their way back towards the payload to kill Envy. It's a really quick completion of the map on Numbani for NYXL. It's completing the map with 2 minutes and 45 seconds left in the time bank.
a very decent time, considering we talked often that this map is fairly long. So we see a couple of 76ers thrown in there, and sometimes it always feels to me like he's a little bit indistinct. Like, you know, he's not supposed to be sort of diving in. You're playing a 76 Tracer, always struck me as a very safe composition, right? Your 76 has his own sort of self-healing. He's got a little bit of a speed boost, of course. He can run around the place. He can sit in the back line. He can play aggressive slightly, but he's kind of a jack of all trades but king of none.
We've seen some really good 76 play, though, on this map. I can think of Bird Ring in one of the series that we casted. It's just phenomenal movement up top. You never had an idea where he was coming from, and he was able to just get a ton of free damage down. But when teams really start to pressure out these Soldier 76s and they can't get that high ground control, it's just not really providing a lot, right? It doesn't provide that burst damage like a McCree, right? Can just like one-shot a Tracer like cross-map, or even in the way the game is right now with the comps that we see, potentially like a Junkrat, right?
So like, I definitely feel the defensive 76 on this map, I think, paired up with the Ana, but on the attack, it would seem, we might not see it here, of course, but we saw Libero play it himself here. Perhaps
like,
just like
I would love to see the Valiant just go with a straight dive and just get Silk Dirt back on the Genji. I thought they were really giving it to New York on Horizon Lunar Colony with that setup.
Again, they'd have to be diving, I guess, Jonak or Arc at this stage, either the Ana or the Mercy. Darts and halves, we'll call it. How about that? Got that one from a bloke on Twitter. Cheers, bro. Give me my material. The Valiant now going to make their way slightly forward. Envy seems to find Jonak here. Defense matrix, though. Yeah, straight behind him, of course. The whole time was Meko protecting that Ana. And the dive just fizzles out. Valiant don't get much for it. Again, trying to play that 76, maybe a slower roll, more controlling, trying to get that high ground left side space.
Well, usually you would see a 76 on the defensive end. This time we see the far end situation. So maybe the Valiant, they expect Libero to be playing the Soldier 76 setup up top, and they just jump right in. And you have, I believe it was Meko and Jonas coming back down.
God,
that sick sleep dart there. Taking out Fate. But when you jump up top, you have both tanks coming in to protect the supports, and then you have the damage coming up right above your head from Libero. Very difficult to play against.
Yeah, it's tough. You've got so many angles to be checking now. Libero kind of can go in between those platforms. So Silk Thread now, so this is maybe a bit of that, flexibility we're seeing from him. Going towards the Pharah here. He's being boosted up. He can't help his backline. He can't peel for them. Janus had a shield over the top. He had his own alone time with Unco there, and there was nothing the Frenchman can do about it. Now Silk Thread trying to go toe-to-toe with Libero in terms of those direct hits. It's a big ask for him. And the Valiant, the pieces are there. They're just not lining up.
And Soon has still been behind enemy lines in these fights, though. So he's just trying to poke, find a place where he can be the difference maker. Does have a pulse bomb. Saviel B finds him out now. So now that NYXL knows that Soon is behind, what does he decide to do? Still has the pulse bomb, probably looking to get it on a Jonak sitting on top.
Bet you he has top damage for his team on Nana even. Would believe it at this rate. Fate going in again. Bubble drop down preemptively now. It's going to be Janus getting himself an Nana boost. Looking for Envy here. It should be an easy pick off. He is being killed, but the damage was there. It was 2-on-1 essentially. But Janus now back to the point. He knows that Unco's been slipped. And that was a beautiful follow-up there. The biotic grenade from Jonak from the high ground, just to ensure they got that kill on the Zen. The Valiant, having lost Unco now, know they need to get the heck back to where they were. And Unco could have had a chance to build up a transcendence in that fight. He's still not there yet.
Sleep Dart had to come like cross map from this position. You see Jonak in all the way down below.
This guy's styling right now.
Unco getting close to a transcendence, so it'll be the sustained support ult that comes online for the Valiant. On the other side for NYXL though, you have a lot of other ults. I mean, you have your Rocket Barrage here. See if Libero decides to use it.
Jonak now being pressured a little bit. Knows above him is not Winston. He is getting jumped upon here. This thing, but Fate's already down. Self-destruct. Oh, it's found two. That's big for Envy. Both supports are down here for the Excelsior. It might be an opening for the Valiant are also lacking players. Meko tries to chase, make up the deficit a little bit more, but he can't quite get there. And that was the door open just when the Valiant needed to break in. Meko, gonna get resuited. But again, lacking teammates here. He might just try and stall it if anything else, but it does look like, by all accounts, the Valiants will be on the roll with the payload here.
Well, Meko's going to get onto the point. He's just going to try and contest it, and that's going to force the Valiant to just dive in deep because they know more spawners are coming in for NYXL. Saviel B gets a touch. See if it's enough. Janus gets onto the point as well. A lot of damage coming down here from Silk Thread. The Valiant will take point A, unlocking the payload. And you see Silk Thread being very aggressive, wants to take these players out.
Yeah, Again, hasn't think twice. The Soldier 76 was there. Bionic Field was placed down. But it does look like the Valiant want to chase onto this. Fate, half HP. He's still happy enough to go forward. Self-destruct, hoping to catch some stragglers there. Was anything but no. It looks like all of Excelsior had taken cover in the shade, or at least inside. It might be time now for the Valiant just to be happy they've got the payload. But NYXL are going to punish them for this. Give the nano boost over towards the Winston of Janus here. And soon remains behind enemy lines whilst his backline starts to get jumped upon himself. Overwhelming perhaps for Soon, and yeah, the combo of Libero and Sabiobi was too much.
Just see what Sabiobi does to opposing Tracers, forces them out of position. Now back at World Cup, a lot of talk was, Sabiobi running around the Harmony Orb, the Zenyatta on him. This time you actually saw Arc just healing him up, following him around, chasing Soon down there. As you see Libero getting very close to attack by Arc still has his Valkyrie. See, when you decide to see this one come out, Jonak just used his nano boost. He's going to get very close to another one here. They do get Janus out of position.
Getting caught in those close quarters against Envy's micro rockets, maybe not advisable for Janus. Putting him back on the endangered species list, there's no doubt about that. Double support ultimates here for LA Valiant. We're close to the nano boost. This is super interesting, by the way. Jonak has not switched off the Ana here. Quite often we do see the Ana player go to the Zen. Jonak maybe wants to get like a nano visor or something for Libero.
It's because he hasn't died since that first point, right? They backed out and didn't have a chance to go back to the spawn. Switch there. So Jonak, he's going to use the nano boost here. You're going to use the Valkyrie as well. Bring him back into the fight. So those support ults here are being used for NYXL. There's the rocket barrage out of Silk Thread. Looking around, he's got players flying in his pace. Doesn't want to put those shots into Meko because he'll just blow himself up with it. Jonak still alive here, getting healed up by his Mercy. They finally deal with him. New York just wasting a lot of time here for the Valiant.
This has been a really big performance from Silk Thread in this map. The Farah's looking real nice from him so far. And the rest of his team are backing up, but the Cage Visor comes late in the day, and it's forced the Valiant off of the payload, essentially. But they get back after a couple of resurrects are applied. Envy brought back to life. Silk Thread can play above the payload here, and there's just too many targets for the NYXL to focus down. And now the Valiant have a chance to take a crack at taking this to an overtime.
It does force the Valiant, though, the Tac Visor and getting a few kills, to use their Valkyrie to put that point away. So now soon we go on with his POV. Just hanging out here in the bush. Just waiting for some players for NYXL. Walk on by, maybe land a big pulse bomb. See who the target of it is. Stuck on a Janus. Ooh, he goes back. He almost actually blows himself up there.
Again, it's hard to know where you were always 2 seconds prior. It's another layer of thinking you need to apply. But Soon wants to, again, take from the periphery here. Sabiobi doesn't want to let him set up here and continue to get Hornet in the side, but they dive on Libero here. Despite the mobility the Soldier 76 has, they managed to chase him down regardless. Military training and biotic enhancement, apparently not enough. Meko with the D-suit though, he's out of this one. Sabiobi eats a Helix rocket, and this might be LA keeping this one exciting for us here. Valkyrie comes in, so Sabiobi is back and ready to fight. The rest of them being kept up tip-top shape by Arc, and Jonak's about to join the fight. He has Transcendence.
Yeah, you're gonna have Janus come in with Primal Rage. He's gonna get rezzed up by Arc. We'll see if he decides to use Primal. He pops it right now. Jonak as well coming off spawn. Probably don't need the Transcendence. Gonna force the LA Valiant out. Only a minute to go here, Mitch. The Los Angeles Valiant. You're gonna have Soon getting close to a Pulse Bomb. You're gonna have Fareed and Unko with both support ults here. So you have both support ults going up against the one support ult for the side of NYXL. Keep an eye on Meko as well with that self-destruct. He picked a big 2-person self-destruct on the offensive side. Maybe he can put it in a good position here around this corner.
This is Death Alley for those self-destructs, Matt. We see so many teams get caught out on the L-shaped road. Soon knows a little bit of tickle damage will give him his pulse bomb. He doesn't want to deal with Sabiobi right now, though. He's looking for bigger targets or a support. Anything to give the Valiant an advantage. But everywhere he goes, it's the Monkey or it's the Tracer that is harassing him. He needs to get into the back line to apply this one. Now the self-destruct going to force him forward. Pulse bomb doesn't connect with anyone there. It does at least force the supports away from the Excelsior, but there needs to be more than that. With the Transcendence being applied, Silk Thread has an opportunity to go for a tactical visor, but he's being pressured. There's still a Diva mech on the field, and of course a Winston that can put the bubble down, not to mention the Transcendence. There's too much for Silk Thread to cut through, and that's the reality of playing 76 right now, Matt. So hard to make the damage stick, but they're making it work regardless. Libero falling here is a very low arc, and Fate finishes off the job. Janus down, an opportunity here. Sabiobi cut down on the payload. They're going to roll straight forward, and the Los Angeles Valiant give themselves at least another shot at making this a competitive map.
And Fate kills Arc at 99% as soon as he gets Valkyrie. The play there for NYXL was to use that Transcendence, stall the fight out as long as possible. You already had all the ults burnt out of the side of the Los Angeles Valiant. Get that Valkyrie up. You bring the tanks back up into the fight. They have that large HP pool, and then also with the healing that Valkyrie provides up in the sky. keep some of those players up, you get your DPS players back in the fight, then you hold on the defensive end. Didn't work out though. It'll be the Los Angeles Valiant here on defense.
I feel
2
like
minutes and 45 seconds on the clock for New York.
I feel like we kind of saw one of the reasons why it's tough to have great success or make big plays individually as a 76 player right now. Silk Thread had that tactical visor, but there were no less than 3 mechanics to prevent his damage from actually meaning anything. Transcendence was there, of course. The the bubble from Winston, I'm losing it, right? We're getting close to the end, and of course defense matrix, right? So it's very, very hard to have an impact there. 76 is all about being able to do damage from a safe location, but now Overwatch is rewarding players that take risks and get close to enemies, trying to force their mistakes out. And 76 he's kind of like a damage stick. You just try and give yourself a higher overall DPS, you throw him in the mix, and good work to Silk Thread to making that happen there, but again, it's tough, it's a grind.
Well, you also have to think about the position that he's in when he uses that tac visor. He comes around the corner, the players can go to either side, get out of line of sight. You have your tanks, they can sit right behind the payload. You have the Transcendence as well. There's not a lot of area where he can get things done. It'll be New York Excel here on offense. They're going to run Libero on the far yet again. We'll see if they can force down Silk Thread from the high ground.
So now here's a response. This dive is what the Valiant recognizing here that they've got a McCree, he's going to be vulnerable. That was beautiful. They know that NYXL want to take the high ground control, but they don't want to approach it through the hallway. They want to jump up directly. Clean as a whistle, man. Good start here for the Valiant. Again, holding off the NYXL, he will give them a draw in this map. It will still ultimately result in a 3-0 series and a loss series, but this is important for them. Not only to show the fans, but also the experience to continue to get out of NYXL.
You see that little golden tick at the top of the screen around the A. That's all the progress that New York needs to get on point A.
33.3%.
To win the map. So you see the dive that came in from Soon. Really good adjustment by the Los Angeles Valiant here.
Reminds me of the old Rogue dives, Matt. Really nice and clean. It looks like this one is just as good. So with the replay up, we got to see a little bit of how it began here. Libero trying to make it happen with Farah. But now Silk Thread again. Farah not often protected by things like the fence matrices, so a 76 can constantly apply pressure if the Farah is not being attended by a Mercy.
Well, when they dive really aggressive on the high ground, the Los Angeles Valiant, the Farah really can't do much there because you have the Winston bubble that comes in from Fate. You also have the defense matrix up there, just fighting in this close quarter area with so much help. Let's see, it looks like New York gonna try and go down towards that bottom side. It's still a play to try and control the high ground. Just going around that bottom side doesn't give an easy area for the Valiant to dive up onto it.
Janus just got stuck with a pulse bomb there, and that seems like it was enough to slow down the NYXL, at least for the time being. There's going to be both support ultimates here for LA Valiant. Jonak might not have his at this stage. He probably really wants it in this fight, so we might see NYXL play slower. Jonak just try and get a little bit more damage in these fights. But now all this is nasty. Prime Array's going to be knocking people off the edge if they're not careful. Saviobi just got completely burst. Vaporized as Fate just ran straight towards him, but of course it's going to be the obligatory resurrections coming out now. Kareem and Ark both providing. Stun on the Fate. He needs to get away, but he might be pressured down here. It's going to be the tactical visor for Silk Thread. Janus just dancing in and out of his bubble here, trying to stay safe, but it's not going to be enough. Silk Thread pressures him down. Janus getting rest again. Ark over the fight. Fate also quite low, getting attended to by his Mercy, the Transcendence. Silk Thread couldn't get to the healing. He was kept away from Unko's Transcendence and went down, but Soon's doing work in his absence.
And you actually had Libero. He was going for that rocket barrage there, and then the Transcendence comes out from Unko, decides not to use it. Janus with the primal rage, trying to stay alive at the point here, gets hit with a pulse bomb. Launched up into the sky, the Valiant will hold on D.
A staunch defense from the Los Angeles Valiant means that the map stays. It's a 3-3 in total, no points awarded. Obviously Excelsior, but a very strong first string map to take in this series, but there have been promising signs. Like, I don't really like doing this all the time, like throwing in constellations just for the sake of it, but it's been quite the series, Matt. We really have seen some great stuff from both these sides.
Yeah, the Los Angeles Valiant did play New York very tough, but still New York with a 3-0 win here. A huge win for NYXL, a statement win early in the season.
So much to talk about on the desk as we're going to head to them after the break. Both of these teams giving us some of them highlight moments, but New York continue to rise up.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by Intel and Omen by HP.
New York gets the win today, but LA still got the weather. That's all we can really talk about in the positives here for Los Angeles, because this was all New York after halftime. We expected a big Game 3 coming up, and that's exactly what we got. Johnny, let's jump into Oasis here, because coming in, we had just watched the matchup between Dallas and Houston. In that, Dallas was running around with a less mobile composition, a much slower composition. Meanwhile, Houston, very agile, very mobile. We got basically the same thing here in this one, with LA Valiant being very mobile and New York Excelsior being that death ball.
Yes, but they had Pine in the lineup. Welcome to the Pine Show. Just popping off on the McCree. And the thing about Pine is they're playing a very slow composition on the side of New York Excelsior, but Pine is playing so proactively. He's always trying to look for these picks, and it makes it so hard for the Valiant to set up their dives correctly and find spots of weaknesses. If they dive onto Pine, there is so much room for risk in their dives, of course. So Pine playing so proactively, it's so dangerous.
But it's not just Pine. The supports, I think, are doing a little bit more heavy lifting than you would typically expect, because when you're running the Orisa Roadhog, obviously these huge, beefy front lines, they end up soaking a lot of damage, essentially taking a lot of healing, and the supports get to deal way more healing than anybody else. So the supports on New York had actually 10k more healing than the ones on the Valiant, which resulted in one more Valkyrie, one more Transcendence, and while it might not sound like much, these are all game-winning ultimates. So the fact that you got two more on your side means if you're going to try to dive Pine, it's going to be that much harder.
I was also very impressed by Meko in this game. Switching over to the Roadhog, you saw that teamwork between the Orisa throwing out her right click, and then, of course, that hook bringing them right in. So many times they got the picks and were able to just steamroll against the Valiant. When the Valiant was battling back on this control map, though, what was going well for them, Reinforce?
Well, they managed to find spots of weaknesses, of course. New York Excel, with Pine playing so proactively, sometimes he goes a bit too far, and Valiant can find a pick or two, and then you see the supports make rotations, you see the Orisa make rotations, etc. And so New York Excelsior, they sort of split up, and that's where the dive composition from Valiant shines, because they managed to just scramble their way through the fight.
So far, we've seen Pine come in 3 times, and it's always been on control. Do you think we should send them into the starting lineup for other maps?
Not yet. I think Control is the only one you can really do it thus far, because they play this slow style. We see New York Excelsior on other maps. They're playing the dive with Libero, for example, or they play the Junkrat with the Widowmaker, which Pine can play. But so far on Control, you need the McCree specifically for the Orisa composition.
Also, Sebiobi did call Pine a Widow 1 trick. We know he plays McCree, but what if he actually only is comfortable playing these two heroes? That Libero might offer more flexibility that is suited for other maps.
I saw Pine during the preseason. I know he can do a lot more than that. I think we all know that. Let's move it on to map number 4. Numbani's loading up, and it's going to be... let's start here with the highlights, guys. Basically, we should just start off with the Valiant soon. In the opening game, we saw the Pharah come in. Libero on that Pharah, which is wrecking house up until they were able to slow things down on this second stage. Johnny, just talk me through how New York opened up on their attack.
Well, actually, Jonak just got a pick. And that's pretty much how they secure the fight.
That's all it is?
We've seen it time and time again. Jonak gets the picks. He got a pick onto Silk Thread. And what do you do have to counter the Pharah? No, Libero was just free. He didn't have any pressure from a Soldier or a McCree or any kind of hit scan. I mean, Anko maybe on a Zenyatta can shoot down the Pharah from the sky, but it's not too reliable. So they managed to get a pick onto Silk Thread, and then Libero on the Pharah can just ease their way through.
Oh, there was so much space for Libero. He actually ended up hitting 28% of his team's damage share on the Soldier and that last push, which is really impressive considering there's 6 people on the team. So 28% is doing a lot of heavy lifting.
All right, so Libero was on the Pharah at the start, but we're going to take a look at him on the Soldier 76. And Johnny, talk me through the composition switch from New York on the attack.
Yeah, so you want to play the Soldier here, I think, because it is a bit more passive, and I think they prefer it a bit. Libero on the Soldier, he played real well, but it was a bit of a misplay from Envy, I think, in both of these fights, because he didn't shut him down with the defense matrix. We saw on point B, for example, Envy used the self-destruct, and that means that there's no defense matrix to shut down Libero. And then on the final point, we see the tactical visor coming out from Libero, and then again, Envy is nowhere to be found with the defense matrix. So a bit of a misplay from Valiant. Maybe they had already taken the loss, they weren't playing as coordinated, but Libero on the Soldier is shining because of Envy's mistake.
Person that stood out to you the most on just map number 4, Crumbs?
From both teams?
Both teams.
I
One of the 12 players you can pick
I think it was Libero for me, as reinforces mentioning, because we were trying to look at other players to stand out, just to try to get a gauge of where they're at. And Libero, I think, went under the radar for most of the other matches. He was just doing his job. He gets subbed out by.
He's a jack of all trades.
Yeah, exactly. He's the jack of all trades, and typically these kinds of players are seen as master of none, but he actually is not that. He actually does master a lot of these heroes too, which is impressive.
All right, well, we were definitely highlighting a number of players from the New York XL throughout this series. They walk away with the victory, so it's no surprise that it's going to be a New York player that is our player of the match, sponsored by Omen by HP. But it's not the guy you thought it is. No Saviobi, no Pine. It's Meko. Yes, the tank is getting some love today, and it all started here on Junkertown for me. He gets a big pick on Bastion as Baby Diva, and then goes on to pick both supports. That is a momentum changer.
Yes, known as one of the best divas in Korea for the longest time. A bit questioned on his role because his Zarya play isn't really up to par, but he really shined, especially on the Diva, and also the Roadhog here on Control. So this guy really shining in the off-tank.
He actually ended up dying only 3 times on the Roadhog on the 3-map Oasis point, and him and his tanking partner ended up dying half the time than the LA Valiant. So
Echo Mano staying up all game, wrecking all night. Here's a look at the total number. 29,000 damage was dished out by Meko while he is on his Diva. You saw those self-destructs so crucial on the final map, Numbani. That's really what opened up this streets phase. So that is going to be our player of the match, sponsored by Omen by HP. Big congrats to Meko. He put on a show for us all. We're 2 matches done, but we still have 1 more to go. It's a battle to find out who is going to establish themselves officially in our top 6. Will it be the Philadelphia Fusion or the LA Gladiators? We find out on the other side of the break.